Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today we are covering The Boys, the Amazon Prime show, Season 2, Episode 8, and this is the finale. We like to give an NSFW warning prior to covering episodes of this show. This show is intended for a mature audience and has extreme violence and some scenes of sexual misconduct. If these topics upset you, then we do not recommend you continue listening. Episode 8, Season Finale. The episode begins with a video production. Now, prior to the video, there's a warning. It says, please be advised, this video production is dramatic and realistic. Some viewers may find it upsetting.
Was that actually, I've been watching a program on Netflix where they've actually aired some things like this because there's some suicide, it's a zombie show. And so, some folks kill themselves because they get bit. And they made for about 20 seconds before one of the episodes, before it happened, they put up a big anti-suicide thing. And what's funny, I did not go back and trace that to see if it was a legitimate warning or if it was the warning for the PSA. You know what I'm getting at?
It's not the official one, and I'll tell you why. Because it has a Vought company logo.
Okay.
In addition to the seals for the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. Okay. So I think they took the video FBI warning that we used to see, and then they combined it with what you're talking about to make a pseudo legitimate dramatic warning, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
We then get to see the title card, and it says, How to Survive a Supervillain Attack at School. We see an elementary school. I think, would you say it's middle school or elementary school? The kids were kind of borderline. It could be 5th grade, maybe 6th grade, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think that they're in a higher, they're 5th at the minimum.
Okay.
Probably, I'm like you, I think they're maybe more middle school, like 6th to 7th.
Okay, so maybe middle school. Okay. They're learning about the Declaration of Independence. There is a poster of Homelander holding a book on the wall. The text says, Readers are leaders. A man named Sheriff Flanagan is providing voiceover. He says, there's a supervillain on your school campus. We can hear screaming outside in the hallway. The sheriff says, you hear the calls of distress. You witness a violent display of superpowers. What do? The people in the classroom look to the window in the door and see the hallway outside light up, and we hear electricity arcing. The screaming from the hallway stops. Of note, below the window in the door, there's a sign that says, stop, do not enter, programming in process.
Oh my goodness. Your eyes are better than mine. I looked on that 2 or 3 times looking for the sign. Was it the one taped beneath the window?
It's like a piece of paper taped beneath the window. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Couldn't even see it. I saw the paper, but I couldn't read it. So well spotted, sir.
Thank you.
I tried. I mean, I did. It is excruciating details, but if you can't see it, I'm sorry if I missed the details.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, you caught stuff that I've missed before too, so we have to kind of rely on each other a little bit,
right?
And sometimes the audience will probably catch stuff that we missed as well. So.
Yep, that's what we hope.
The sheriff introduces himself and says, "I'm here with Homelander to talk about school safety." There's a poster behind them that says, "If an active shooter attacks, respond with lock, arm, wait." The sheriff says, on the first report of an active supervillain, a hero will immediately rush to your campus. The camera view shifts and it zooms in on Homelander. He says, but to stay alive in the moment, remember, stay calm and follow the law. When he says law, a sidebar appears on the left side of the screen with the letters LAW listed vertically. Homelander breaks down the acronym: lock all doors and
Whoa.
windows.
Whoa. No trigger warning? What about the acrophobia, dude?
I don't know if that's as big a deal as we think it is. People will have to let us know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it a thing. I'm sorry.
Well, the mellophobe stuff, we'll get to
Dude.
that later. So, the video shows the people in the classroom performing these actions. Homelander says, "Arm yourselves. Your teachers should have an authorized firearm."
Let me ask you a question there. Do
Mhm.
you agree or disagree with that?
I kind of have a nuanced view on this.
Sure. As you should.
I think that anybody that is going to be handling a firearm needs to have consistent training a
Mhm.
lot. They need
Yeah.
to have muscle memory built up to fully understand the function of that. They need to be able to
Mhm.
use it correctly. And as we see in this video, the teacher is not incredibly familiar with it. She doesn't look
Yes.
that proficient. So I would say, like, if maybe there's a volunteer program where it might be a deterrent in and of itself if
Right.
5 of 50 teachers have guns and they don't know which ones they are.
See, I'm in agreement, but see, I'm like you. I have a very nuanced view in that as well. It's like would
Mm-hmm.
never want anyone that does not want to do it, of course. And I
Mm-hmm.
also agree that either I'm even for a simpler solution than this: hire security guards.
Well, they have like a school police department at the school district that my kids go to, and the
Right.
police are there on campus. So
Some people do, but because
Yeah.
because this is a problem everywhere, including in a small town. I mean, just because you live in a
Mhm.
small town doesn't mean crazy things don't happen.
Right.
And I don't live that far from Uvalde, and we have we had when the first month I was here, we had someone stop an active shooter going to go happen in Walmart here.
Mm.
So it's like doesn't matter where you are, crazy things happen. So I'm always kind of down with folks that want to do it, carry it, but because that can be a big deterrent. But I'm also a big training guy because first off, we grew up shooting a lot. Now I was not a hunter, but we shot for pleasure.
Mhm.
So I have done lots of training, and by the time I've taken a CCL, and they grew. Stuff used to be a lot more thorough back then. It's things have lightened up a little bit. I'm like you. I have a very nuanced view as well. But I think if someone thought that there's a possibility of always there's going to be some kind of armed response possible on any campus, I feel that a lot of these people have the fact that there's not going to be any armed response for a lot of time, and that's has been proven true time and time again.
Mm. I mean, there's always going to be the edge case where the person just doesn't care. They're just
Sure.
crazy. I mean, a lot of them are crazy already anyway.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
to cite a specific example, there was a situation in a mall where somebody had their own gun and they stopped the shooter. That guy, as soon as he could get a CCL, he got it, and then he was training all the time.
Right.
And apparently the shot that he took was like 40 yards away or something.
Gee
And
whiz.
it was with a pistol.
Wow.
So yeah, the
That's
guy,
impressive.
and he went back in, like he took his girlfriend outside, then went back in. So that was kind of one of those examples where the training, I think, really made a pretty big difference.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, I agree with you. However it's handled, I agree if there is some serious training involved on
Yeah.
either parties, so
The video shows the teacher getting a Pelican case out of a drawer in her desk. Notably, there's no lock mechanism securing the case. She opens the case, revealing a handgun, a clip, and a box of ammo.
now to be fair, you cannot clearly see under her right hand.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it like several times. There's 2 lock holes in that box, and as
Yep.
her hand is coming out of the drawer, it fades to the box, her popping the locks.
Okay.
So I'm not going to assume that this person has taken the time to do that, but I would like to hope that this process was edited out for excitability.
Yeah, I would say if you have that case and there is no lock securing that, that is
Dude,
a recipe for disaster right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
She is shown loading the clip with bullets, which was weird to me because that's going to take time and in
I
a
know what
situation is so
it should be. I'm a guy that I'm a person because I do have a gun.
Mhm.
It's in a place where I can get to it, and it's not easily accessible to anybody other than me.
Mhm.
So I have a good lock place for it kind of deal, and but it doesn't do you any good unless you got one in the pipe.
Right.
So it's ready to go. All you got to do is pull the trigger, click it back, and pull the trigger.
Right.
No racking.
So she's shown loading this clip round by round, and then she
I know
inserts it
what.
in the gun and then chambers around. Homelander continues, but use whatever you can. The video shows two students using a flagpole as a spear. Another picks up the 3-hole puncher from the teacher's desk. He lifts it and confetti pours out the bottom as he does. Homelander then says, and wait for a hero. The kids in the class all turn their desks over on their sides and hide behind them. The teacher aims the gun at the door. Her hands look a bit shaky. We see another flash of light in the hallway. Another person screams. The sheriff says, unfortunately, the possibility that you will experience a supervillain attack grows more likely every day.
Nice. Supervillain.
Yeah. On the bottom of the screen, it says, learn more at www.votamerica.com/active-supervillain. Below that, it says, special thanks to the New York City Sheriff's Department and PS457. I went to the website. It takes you to the Sony Pictures website.
Okay. I tried this. I got a Sony Pictures non-available website.
Yeah, so they own it, but it's not
Right.
linked to the boys or like
Yes.
the other ones were.
Yes.
Yeah. I also looked up PS457. It is a health facility in the Bronx. The facility type is school-based diagnostic and treatment center extension clinic. Homelander says, but by having an action plan, you can dramatically increase your chances of survival, and survival is all that matters. Homelander and the sheriff look at each other and give each other a nod.
Yep.
So I got to tell you a story about what happened to my wife recently.
Okay.
She went back to school last year. She was in class one day. Suddenly, they get an announcement over the speakers that there's an active shooter on campus.
Oh.
They all have to lock the door, hide under their desks, and they turn the lights off, all this stuff. There's people crying in the room. Come to find out, it was a false alarm.
Oh, my word.
So these people, some of these people, you can imagine what's going through their head, right?
Oh, yeah, they're thinking this is it.
They've heard this stuff on the news and everything. As everybody's leaving, the faculty's outside. They're like, are you okay? Are you okay? You know, like asking people, probably trying not to get sued or something. It's just...
I hope somebody says, no, I am not okay.
I'm sure a lot of people were not okay. I think they were given counseling and stuff like that, but it's messed up, man. That's a heck of a mistake to make.
Well, you know, they had one of those kind of happen close to us, where there's an Air Force base, I believe, here in San Antonio, Lackland, and they had a shutdown because of some noise that was presumed to be an active shooter. And immediately I get this flurry of emails because, you know, I do loss prevention /safety. And so, you know, everyone just going on high alert when that happens. And then, you know, as I start digging deep, of course, we find out later that, you know, that it was not true. But, you know, you can imagine, and everyone, and rightfully so, is, you know, just you better be ready for it. I mean, it's always better to be prepared.
Yes. The scene transitions to the Secretary of Defense, or the SecDef.
Yes.
Robert A. Singer.
So Robert SecDef.
For those of you that weren't around in season 1, there was a set deck.
A set deck, yes.
Yeah, it was the set decorator. He made the mistake of putting Homelander's blankie from when he was a baby on the bed in his fake house from when he grew up, and Homelander had a fit about it. So there was a little bit of joke about the set, which job is better, the set deck or the SecDef. So that's back in season 1 for those of you that weren't around for that
reference. Okay.
Well, I want them to know why we're laughing.
No, I like it.
Yeah. So Robert A. Singer is the SecDef. He's rummaging around in a drawer of ties looking for a flag pin. He calls out to someone named Jody asking where the pin is. Jody says, how should I know? He says, well, I can't go to this thing without a flag pin. Mallory and Victoria Newman are also present. They appear to be in Robert's office. Mallory says, Bob, before he makes any decisions, just let me talk to him. Bob says, 1, the president doesn't like you. He used the word standoffish.
Standoffish, I love it.
2, he's decided he's declaring a national emergency, bypassing the FDA and authorizing Compound V for use by law enforcement and first responders. Victoria says, wait, Robert, are you kidding me? Robert says, I wish I were. Doses are going for $5 million a pop. Pentagon's got a big order in, and ICE is next in line. At first, I was flabbergasted by the $5 million price tag. But
Right.
when I was thinking about it, I guess it kind of makes sense. A
Mm-hmm.
Patriot missile is about $3 million,
Right.
and that is a single use armament. The potential to have a soup like Homelander is infinitely more valuable than something like that.
I agree. But have they developed the foolproof version? Because I forgot who was talking about who brought up the fact that they were looking for that, the foolproof version of just each shot brings you a foolproof,
Reliable soup.
a reliable soup, pretty successful ratio. And now we know that thanks to Homelander's big reveal last season that when he was creating the supervillain, that he mentioned the low success ratio on adults. He said, but still, even out of 1 of 100, even that would still be fairly cost effective in the long run, wouldn't you think? If you could get one on your side,
I mean, that's
one
a
for
lot of
each.
soldiers to run through.
That is a lot of soldiers to run through.
100 soldiers, because they invest a lot of money in these
They
soldiers,
do.
training,
I
all
think
that
I
kind of
forget
stuff.
how many millions of dollars. I mean, even your person that's gone through basic training has already had several thousands of dollars invested in them.
Yes.
I don't know what the number is, but I know that those numbers exist and wouldn't be hard to find. So
yeah, and you're right. They were discussing that in season 2, episode 6. It was Lamplighter that was talking about what they were doing at Sage Grove.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. He was talking about that too.
That was the purpose of that experimentation, was to try to develop
Thank you.
Yeah.
The foolproof.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Another point here, just the naivete on display with the assumption that the individuals that take this drug, the ones that are being dosed, that they'll remain loyal. And between PTSD and the fact that power corrupts, it just seems so irresponsible. Like, I don't have a better alternative realistically. When you have a world with super terrorists in it, I guess you kind of have to go down this road, but it just seems like a bad route to take unless you have them like programmed,
right?
Like you were talking about, like the Manchurian Candidate, so that you have some mental override so that you can brainwash them. I mean, sounds like a bad idea.
Dude, could you imagine? I mean, if it does, I mean, think about how amazing Captain America is. But if you put a guy, if let's say if you create 100 of him, not all of them are going to be super nice guys.
Right.
So, at best case scenario, you have some guys that are mildly indifferent, but they could be wildly hateful. They might be really mad. I mean, so there's no telling what this stuff could do to them psychologically. I'm like you. That I think some of this stuff could be, I'm assuming, painful going through.
Yeah, well, Kimiko said it was the most, and her brother said it was the most painful thing they'd ever experienced in their life. They wanted to die.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. So yeah, there you go. I think that would be hard. I know you get a bunch of people that still line up for it. Look at Deadpool.
Heck yeah, just for the power.
They're lining up. Yes, absolutely. They're lining up for it. You know it.
There's a lot of people that would do that just for 1 million Instagram followers.
Yeah, that's sad.
Probably less, 100,000.
Yeah, you are correct, sir.
There was some movie my wife was watching, The Brass Teapot or something, where
I have it in my queue. I haven't watched it yet. I've been curious about that one.
I think the premise is these people, they find this artifact, and if they hurt themselves, it gives them money.
Yes.
They get up to some real bad stuff as the movie progresses when they're kind of trying to get this money, right? It's just and you think about the human nature, right?
I've seen images of them hitting each other and then going to the dentist and having teeth pulled just for no anesthetic, just getting teeth pulled just to get the money. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You said, what could we do to combat that stuff? What we could do is you just have to get groups like, I think you could put Mallory, if you could get Mallory and Butcher in charge of recruiting like-minded individuals. She's successful. Look at the boys.
They're not exactly mentally stable, though, a lot of them, right?
No, but that's usually we kind of run into some of those in some of that special forces guys, because some of those special forces guys, you have to kind of be nuts to join it anyhow. So I think there's a degree of craziness that could be either way. It's loose cannons watching loose cannons. So
yeah. Mallory tells him, "You can't release V into the mainstream. We're talking an avalanche of soups. It's suicide." Robert says, "In 1 hour, I will be standing at the memorial service for the fallen heroes of the house attack with my flag pin, giving my thoughts and prayers and pledging to keep America safe." The best way to do that is with compound V. I love how he yells with my flag pin
I
at
do
Jody as
too.
he's talking. She better find that pin. That's all I got to say.
I'm getting concerned because if this brings up an issue I got to thinking about here. It's like, could you imagine what kind of blowback a politician would have just for accidentally to forgetting to put their button on?
Do you think people get blowback for that?
Dude, depends on who's in charge. You better believe they catch some blowback on it. They might
Wow.
catch some. I mean, depending on which group you're on there, but maybe maybe he could. If Jody don't find it, maybe Sec Def might become the set deck yet. So,
Yep.
so there. Sorry for the big setup on that one, folks. I had a long setup coming for that one. Okay.
Victoria says, yeah, we know. We were there, remember? Covered in my chief of staff's brains. Look, there was no terrorist. It was Vought. It's a coup. Robert says, a bunch of their guys died too. Victoria counters with, to cover their own tracks. Robert puts his hands down on the desk and says, for the record, I agree with you. And I hate this. But you've got no proof. Folks are scared. If Vought took a in the middle of Fifth Avenue, they'd throw a ticker tape parade.
And they would.
Mallory says, here's what we do have, Bob. Robert says, oh, let me guess. A tape of me my kid's nanny at her daughter's quinceanera? Release it. Please, I'm begging you. A plum gig at Fox and this hole in my rear view sounds dreamy.
I love that amazing response. That would probably be a lot less painful and stressful than his current career.
Yeah. As long as you're willing
word.
to, follow the company line, right? This is the message we're sending out this week.
Right.
If you don't have any issues with that, you're good to go. That's for any news network, not just Fox.
Thank you. Yeah. That's for all of them.
Yeah.
It's no longer news. It's a business. And when it's a business, that's a problem.
Yeah. Jody has found the coveted flag pin and is pinning it on his lapel as he speaks.
So she did have it.
She did have it somewhere. She found it real quick.
She found it. Yeah, she did.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Victoria says, okay, what if we got hard proof, a witness, anything? Robert says, if you could get Jesus Christ himself, or maybe Homelander, in front of a camera, sure. I really am sorry. He walks out of the office. Inside the Vought compound where Becca has been living, we see a search party looking for someone at night. There's a helicopter with a searchlight. Dogs and armed men are performing a search pattern. We see Becca running through the woods, attempting to evade them. She runs through a sewer drain, then hides near a tree and pulls a knife. The armed men pass behind her. What's she going to do with that knife? Like, how could you defend yourself with...
Well, have some faith.
Okay.
Well, now, do you want to know one thing, though, that's interesting? Is a knife does cut through bulletproof stuff. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a bulletproof vest is useless against a knife.
I think my larger question is there's like 50 men searching for her, and they're in groups of 5, and they have submachine guns or some type of automatic rifle. I have to assume that she's not going to be able to do much with that. But
no,
you are right. We should be patient.
Hey, remember the Almond Joy setup?
Yes. Back in the city, Starlight and her mother, Donna, are leaving the shop that the boys have been using as their base of operations. That's where the Haitian Kings are, in the basement.
Yes.
2 military Humvees drive by in the street. At a bus stop, there is a Vought ad with a picture of Homelander on it. The text reads, Saving America. There are 2 hashtag Stormfront stickers stuck to the ad, likely put there by some storm chasers.
Oh, you know it.
Donna tells Starlight, I'm nervous about driving in the city. Starlight assures her she'll be okay. She asks, the plan again? Donna says, okay, drive straight to Jen's in Sedona, cash for gasoline, no hotels. Starlight nods. After a pause, Donna says, I don't want to leave you here. Starlight says, I'll be fine. Donna turns to leave, then turns back around and says, the anxious boy? Really? With the moist handshake? She really doesn't like Huey.
Dude, no one likes Huey. I don't get that with the ladies dog Huey. I don't know, man. Donna's still hoping maybe she's hoping something's going to happen with Homelander here. I don't know, but this one made me. I mean, I busted out laughing on that one, dude.
Yeah, it got me too. Starlight says, Mom, come on. Donna says, okay. She pulls something out of her purse and says, you need a new one. It's a cross on a necklace. Starlight takes it and says, I'm not going to wear it. Donna says, I don't care if you wear it. I just want you to have it. I love you. Starlight says, I love you too. And they embrace each other. Donna tells her to be safe and gets in the car. Starlight says, okay. She then goes back inside to the basement in the shop. She greets Huey, who is approaching her rapidly. She asks, what's going on? Huey says, they've lost their minds. The camera turns to show Frenchie holding some contraption and speaking with MM. He says, the RPG releases an electromagnetic pulse on impact. Should cut through Stormfront's plasma bolts. Butcher asks, how sure are you? Frenchie says, it's a guesstimate. It appears as if Butcher, MM, and Frenchie are preparing for battle. They have a bunch of equipment out on the table. Butcher says, so that's Stormfront, and thanks to Starlight, we know that Noir needs only a tree nut. How about A-Train? MM says, got enough epinephrine here to blow up that mother's heart. Huey says, hey, we can't just kill everyone. Kimiko walks in with a rocket launcher over one shoulder. Butcher says, that is exactly what we're going to do. Huey says, listen, you heard Mallory. She said all we need is another witness. Frenchie says, Wile E. Coyote. Always chases Roadrunner. Always with an elaborate plan. Always fails. You know, I always say, why do this, Coyote? All you need is an AR-15 and meep meep no more.
I love him. Frenchie. Yeah. Serge.
Butcher says, exactly. See, we're just going to shoot Roadrunner in the head. Huey says, that won't stop Vought. That won't stop Compound B. If you kill these soups, then Vought's just going to make 1,000 more. Butcher says, yeah, and we're going to top those too. Frenchie locks the EMP rocket he was holding into the launcher that Kimiko is holding. Huey says, so that's settled? We're just supervillains now, huh? MM says, Vought attacked the country, Huey. Them all. Starlight asks, what if I testify? MM says, escaped convicts don't have a ton of credibility. Starlight says, no, but maybe I know someone who does. Give us the day. She begins to leave. Huey is smiling. Starlight calls out to him to get him to follow her. Huey excuses himself from the rest of the boys.
It's kind of a little, at this point, I'm kind of a little with MM on this. Just we've been attacked, man. We need to take care of it.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Wait, let's process that. Mm-hmm. So you're saying we've been attacked. Do they have definitive evidence on who did the attack with the heads exploding?
They do not. There's no definitive proof on that one.
Right. So that's the only issue I have with something like that, where they just want to go off to war because you don't have proof who did it. So
you don't. And that's the big problem. I'm with you for waiting a little bit longer and finding out. But I'm at this thing at the moment. Mm-hmm. Just knowing what we know at the moment. So it's like, but these guys have been kind of wildly effective for kind of charging in crazy. Odds have been against them, and they always kind of come out on top, strangely enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to be prepared in the event that they do find out exactly who it was. Yeah. But wouldn't want to rush in.
But I especially with that, because you don't know who's bigger and badder behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. There could be someone hiding that we don't even know about. There could be several someones we don't know about that have been there the whole time.
Right.
Could be Stan.
Inside the Vought Command Center, Homelander is watching the news. He actually looks concerned. The Vought News Network is on the TV. The title reads, Attack on America. Below that, it says, FBI, no credible leads at this time. The news anchor is saying, officials are still trying to determine the perpetrator of the Capitol attack. The Department of Homeland Security has issued a Crimson Terror alert.
Oh, my word. I just had a Monty Python flashback there. It's like, have you ever seen, The Meaning of Life?
The only Monty Python movie I've ever seen is The Holy Grail.
Oh, well, that's still a great one. But if you get a chance, the Crimson Permanent Assurance, it's an insurance company that's a building, and then they drop sail. They set sail, and they go on the international seas of finance and start raiding like pirates other financial institutions. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant piece of fantasy from Terry Gilliam. I think you'd absolutely love it. But just something about the Crimson Alert just brought the Crimson Permanent Assurance to mind. I'm like, no.
The news anchor says, in Washington, all government buildings are shut down. Stormfront walks in. The camera changes shots and we get a wider view of the command center. The room is undergoing repairs after the fight between Black Noir and Starlight took place here. Most of the TVs on the walls are flickering, only one of them still fully operational. The conference table has caution tape surrounding it because that also got broken.
Yeah, he was beating her face into that table.
Yes. Some of the pillars are still damaged. A replacement panel is leaning against the wall where it will be installed over the hole left by Black Noir throwing Starlight through the wall. Now, the Crimson Terror thing, I tried to look up what that means, if anything, and found that that is actually not a threat level used by the U.S. France does have that level. In the U.S., we have low, which is a low risk of terrorist attacks, guarded, which is a general risk of terrorist attacks, elevated, which is a significant risk of terrorist attacks, high risk of terrorist attacks, and severe risk of terrorist attack.
Okay.
Homelander asks, how's Noir? Stormfront stops walking about 10 feet behind Homelander and says, unresponsive. They don't think there's brain damage, but apparently it's hard to tell. Two things here. First, I think it's weird that she's standing this far back from him. I would think, given their relationship, she'd be standing right next to him. So that kind of just stood out to me.
I think she really bared a big part of herself to him, physically as well. But and I think she's trying to kind of get a read on him here, because maybe to see which way to steer him. Because I feel, she has we just upgraded his mommy this season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, to someone that can take a punch from him. So I don't, I think she's just really trying to gauge it and trying to be truthful, because she knows he can listen and tell if she's lying too.
Yes.
So I think she's just trying to read the room.
Okay, that makes sense. So the second point is, when she says it's hard to tell if he has brain damage, I had to laugh. And this kind of goes back to our reaction to seeing Butcher scrawled on a piece of paper with what looked like children's handwriting when he took it to Annika in the CompStat room, the analytics room. You had described that handwriting as almost childlike. So that this comment in conjunction with that kind of makes me wonder.
It does. It's kind of scary. I'm really curious what we'll go with him. Because I really want to see a lot more of him.
Yes. Though I like the mystique. It's just,
I do too.
It's fun not knowing almost. It's driving me crazy, but at the same time, it's kind of fun.
It is, because I've told you I've gone back and forth. I'm going back and forth on if he's who I think he is or if he's not. Mm-hmm. There's possibilities still kind of exist. I think not, but like I said, I'm like you. I think the mystery is always great, because I don't want it to be like Jar Jar, or,
oh my God.
or an Ewok or something like that, or you know what I'm saying.
Well, wait, are you talking about the Jar Jar, the theory that Jar Jar is the Sith?
Oh no.
Have you heard that theory?
I have heard that theory, yes, but no,
okay.
Maybe he is. I don't know. It's like, no, there's no way, but it's like, no, I'm just, you just don't know. No, Noir might be, we know he's been horribly disfigured from what we can see of him, but does he regenerate?
Right. When she lifted his mask up, his face was horribly scarred.
Yeah. And you've talked about the variable weights. We don't even know his gender. So is it the same person? Is it a group of clones that just we swap out? Are they like the stormtroopers?
Yeah, who knows, man? Is it a cyborg?
No. Well, I got no idea. It's like I said, I still don't know where I'm leaning on this anymore, because I know where the comic book is going. I haven't read it, but I know from what I've read about it, it was a major spoiler. So
yeah. Hopefully we find out more in season 3.
I am hoping so.
Homelander says, so Noir's a vegetable, Lamplighter's a charcoal briquette, Starlight's in the breeze somewhere, and you're, what, fine with it? Stormfront says, yes, because none of that matters anymore because of this. She nods towards the TV. We get a quick cut of Vogelbaum's head exploding during the congressional hearing. Now, On the topic of trigger warnings, there's a big red bar across the top of the screen. It reads trigger warning, decapitation on
But
public television.
I know it. This. Oh my word, that's just amazing.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Oh, that's brutal.
The news anchor says, so far, no terrorist group has claimed responsibility. Homelander exhales and says, all right, so you didn't do this. Stormfront laughingly says, I wish I'd killed Vogelbaum, but no, it wasn't me. Homelander says, right. And there's no supervillains on American soil. Stormfront says, none that we know of. Homelander continues, and that means it's Edgar. Stormfront says, maybe. I mean, he's pretty smart, especially for his kind. How about that undertone there?
Well, what's bad for her, that has a double meaning for her.
That's what I'm talking about, that undertone.
Yeah, she's got the racial component as well as the non-soup component.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
You know, so because she looks down on the non-soups also with the same disdain, I feel, because she brought that into Starlight. Remember, she said you would turn on your own kind.
Right.
She goes, what are you, being racist? She goes, no, I'm talking about soups.
So, like, have we seen any evidence that anybody gets smarter by taking Compound V?
No, but we're due one.
Okay, you're right.
You know,
but what I would say is when she makes a statement like this, I'm leaning towards this is her racial stuff.
Oh yeah. That's kind of what I agree with you. I believe that's. I believe there's a big.
But you are right in that. Yeah, she does view the soups as supreme above regular humans as well.
Yes, because she has shown disdain for the black soup that we A-Train.
Yes, yeah, A-Train. Yeah.
Very openly to him, but by themselves, so no one could prove anything.
Right.
She's pretty smooth. I'll
she's
give her
slick,
that.
man.
But
she's like, what? Don't be racist.
Slick.
Yeah. She's the one that's acting that way, and then she's like,
I know what I love it. She's amazing. She is a really good actress. I really like her.
Yeah, she's a good villain.
Yeah, she's a really good villain.
The news anchor is discussing the plan to release Compound V to the military and first responders. Of note, in the ticker at the bottom, Vaught's stock price is up 134.6. I'm not sure what the price per share was previously, but that's a pretty big mover in comparison to the other stocks. I think the largest other one was around 30 that it had moved. Okay. So that's a pretty good jump. I would assume their stock price is under 100. So the news of the doses being provided to the military and the first responders probably bolstered their stock price significantly.
Absolutely. Somebody could have got rich off that one real quick if you bought enough of it.
Yeah. Stormfront finally walks up to stand next to Homelander and says, hey, smile. This is good news. Yes, there have been sacrifices, but we are this close to no more premieres or paparazzi or screaming fans or any of that dancing monkey. We have to make sure that the right people get the doses, but it is a whole new world. Homelander asks, what about the wrong people? Couple billion of them. They're not just going to sit there. Stormfront says, don't worry, silly. Frederick had a solution for everything. She smiles. Homelander just looks concerned. I found his reaction interesting. What do you think is going through his mind right there?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he's mad about that, his grand scheme. Remember last season he had that, we brought it up earlier about the Compound V stuff that he had done, and he's starting to realize that this may not, it might not be that good. Because what if you get a guy that's that makes Homelander, and this is not an insult, look like Batman to Superman? What if you get a guy that is just like thousands of times stronger?
That's not an insult. You just pick Batman.
No, because Batman is the ultimate human. So if we look at Homelander, sorry. So if you look at Homelander, and it's like, could you imagine if you had a guy that jumped out there with like I said, I kind of look at him in that strength range, what I call 25s. That's what the Superman's his physical strength is. That's his strongest attribute, is his strength. So I look at that and wondered if you had a guy that just had, like I said, it was just even one, it could be 2 times stronger, 3 times, 4. What if it's a guy that's like magnitudes like he is over Starlight? Some guy just walks up and just beats the stuffing out of, could you imagine a guy that comes along that could just beat the tar out of Homelander?
When we're talking about power levels, right? So physical strength's one thing, but
Yes.
you get a Charles Xavier that can control
Yes.
anybody.
He's in that same class, though. In my
Yeah.
mind, I
Hmm.
still rate him. And like, if I had to rate his telekinesis or whatever his main core power is, I would list his core power as, or his mind power, which is
It's
a
mind
physical
control.
attribute.
Yeah.
His mind would be 25.
Hmm.
I would label him. If anyone would have an ability to maybe get a grip on Superman, would be someone like Xavier. But the problem is that all the new stuff with Superman, I've read a bunch of stuff that's basically all his weaknesses just make him stronger nowadays, apparently.
Mm.
So he's just apparently invulnerable, unkillable, and will never die. So,
I mean, that's why it's not that compelling.
and I get that. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. He's been poorly written and poor, but I think they've been. But some of the newer stuff may be compelling because they have some stuff that does threaten him. You know, every
Mm.
comic, but I don't know how well written it is because I checked out so long ago because of the forced crossovers and stuff like that. That you end up having to read every comic in the universe just to keep up with something, and it's just aggravating and costly. So they have really the comic book people. I kind of am sick of the way that they treat people so much. Their fans in particular.
Mm.
We've talked about some of this stuff in private.
Yeah.
About their of what they're doing, and it's just insulting to everybody. You know, they're insulting their fan bases. So,
Well, they're not going for the fan base that you are. They're going for the next generation's fan base.
yeah, but the next generation fan base
They're not
don't
there.
pay.
You're right.
Yeah, they're not there, and they don't pay.
Yeah. So, you know what? I find this interesting that I'm criticizing Superman so much here as kind of being one dimensional, right?
He is one. I agree.
But
I'm
hold
not
on,
disagreeing with you.
But hear me out. Hear me out. What's ironic about this is my favorite anime is One Punch Man, which is basically the same problem. He's virtually unbeatable.
He's bored Superman.
He's bored Superman. So what's compelling about that story to me is how they find ways to challenge him. And it's really interesting.
Okay. Does he get challenged? Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'll
he
give it.
does.
I'll give it another shot. Okay.
Yeah.
I just assumed he made it through without even struggling. I thought he was bored the whole time.
Yeah. Well, his challenges are different than other ones, right? For example, he's just out and about destroying all this like super high level stuff and nobody's recognizing him for it, and he's struggling. He's about to get kicked out of the hero league because he's not producing enough, but like somebody else actually accidentally gets all the credit for what One Punch Man's doing, and this guy is just a normal dude and they think he's godlike, but he's just around accidentally every time One Punch Man's there. So like
oh my word!
The problems One Punch Man has is like he just can't get credit for anything. And he's not a show off. He's just doing it for fun. I don't know. Everybody I talk to, they're not as into it as I am. So you may or may not enjoy it.
No. One of my favorite people on the planet, as far he's a Christian apologist. And I've mentioned his name before, David Wood. He loves, that's his icon, like his avatar on his apologetics website.
One Punch Man?
Because he's
really?
like he is the One Punch Man of apologetics, basically.
Oh, I see.
So that's his guy.
Well,
so he loves that guy.
That seems a little. He must think a lot of himself.
Yeah, he's good, dude.
That's crazy.
He's an interesting fella. I think you might take some interest in him. He's fun.
That's the detective one you were telling me about.
No, the detective one might speak more to your intellectual part, but David does too. He's not arrogant. He's really not. He's just he's really smart. He's really quite funny actually. But he's not afraid to. He is. Because his apologetic style, he's a philosopher, and his thing, he uses polemics. He's more attacking. His style differs from someone who just wants to. There's guys that they argue different. His style is a lot different and a lot more aggressive.
I see.
And he gets ragged on by the Christian community a lot about it. But it's like like I mentioned in the past, some people need to be talked to differently. And he talks to a large population of people that hear him and are moved by him, and not in a bad way. I'm not talking about it in a hateful way. He's he's not a hateful person.
We're kind of off track here, but I got to make this one last point because it's kind of funny. So the other day I was telling my wife about the Batman vs Superman show we're planning.
Yep.
And she was like, all right, do you want to practice debating me? And I was
I'm
like,
not good.
I was like, sure, why not? She came at me from Superman's side. I was under assault
Oh,
for like 15 minutes. I couldn't even get a word out of my mouth. Like she,
oh, wow.
she
I won't be like
destroyed me.
that.
I was like, oh
No.
my gosh. So like when you say like that attacking style of
Yeah.
argument, I was
Yeah. No, I'm not. That's, so your wife is a polemical attacker. All right. I've got
well,
to meet
that
her
was just
now.
her strategy because she knows my weakness. So,
Right.
it was pretty
This
good.
also, that is good. But now the other thing that I wanted to bring up, it was, she brought up a comment about her late husband. Um, Something I've brought up in the past about Stan Edgar having, does he have a soup cure? Or is she possibly referring to something altogether, like
Oh
maybe a
yeah.
targeted virus to target off racial characteristics? That sounds more like that kind of threat to
Yeah,
me.
this is some type of real
Genocidal,
how are you gonna deal with billions of people? It's got to be some
right?
crazy thing.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it makes me wonder if is is she above Edgar
That's
like
really
that? Uh,
unclear.
I know it.
Yeah,
I hope we get some clarity on this. Maybe maybe with her out of commission, maybe Stan will be the man. I'm going to bring up Stan the Man later because I have some issue.
because they were emailing each other back and forth, right?
Yeah,
And that makes me kind of wonder. What I'm really curious about is who decided she would be in the 7. Did Stormfront say put me in the 7 because she's running things, or did Edgar do that? Because there's a
right.
conversation that's going to happen later in this episode that makes me wonder
Yeah,
when he's talking to Butcher. So we'll get back to that.
that's true. That is true. Yeah, we'll be there pretty quick because it's not that terribly far away.
Yeah. Only the Good Die Young by Billy Joel is playing on the stereo as Huey and Starlight are driving somewhere. Starlight says, okay, there's something really important that I've been meaning to ask you. Huey gives her a confused look. Starlight says, last I checked, you are not 57 years old. So come on. Why is it always Billy Joel? Huey says, I'm 57 on the inside. Starlight says, no, really, please. I like how he tried to play it off with a joke.
I know, I do too.
Huey says, it was just the music in my house growing up. You know, I did some somersaults to You May Be Right that were pretty thrilling to watch. Now, before this conversation moves on, I wanted to kind of dive into this with you a little bit.
Mhm.
What is your favorite band? When were you exposed to it and how old were you?
See, that is such a multifaceted question for me
Mm-hmm.
because my family is very musical and I've been a musician trying to find out what I wanted to play from a very young age. And so I discovered certain things differently. And like one of the first things I really like, I loved Kiss growing up, but there was a group called Parliament that was on the same label. And
Mm-hmm.
this is like a black group that they were so outrageously dressed and their musicianship was outrageously great. And so I fell in love with funk and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be Bootsy Collins. I wanted to be that bass player for that group. These guys, man, they were just absolutely amazing. Um, Another influence on me, you've seen Smoking the Bandit, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I don't know if you know this, but the driver Snowman,
Mm-hmm.
that's Jerry Reed. He's the one that did the song Eastbound and Down for the movie and all the whole soundtrack actually. But Jerry is one of the greatest guitar players I've ever lived. He is a finger picker. Some of his stuff, my brother would play that for me. So Parliament, I would have heard when it came out. I think that was 77. So
Mm-hmm.
I would have been about 8. And that one album of theirs actually had a little comic book. The Jerry Reed stuff, my brother, all this stuff I would have been exposed by my brother for the Jerry Reed and the Parliament. The other stuff, like I fell into Frank Zappa, which he's real avant-garde. So I'm a really strange mix. I mean, and I like a lot of generic hard rock, just, just kind of your hard rock and roll station, but funk music, country finger picking, and avant-garde are all rolled up in this really strange mix of what I listen to.
So, but let me ask you this. So you don't have anything that's like Billy Joel for Huey?
I could say Frank Zappa. I think
Uh-huh.
at a point in my life, it was Frank Zappa.
Okay. And then when did you start
And
listening to that?
that would have been about 87, 88.
So you were older. You're like,
I'd graduate. I was like 18, 19. And I was living on my
okay.
own. And my drummer was a really talented drummer, and he had turned me on to some crazier, more extremely difficult music to listen to. And because I was challenged as a listener, I was excited by things that were more like that at that point in my life. And now I could say there's I love a young guy named Pliny, Plini, but that's something I only heard. That's something that lifted me up after I discovered that when my wife was sick, and so I listened to a lot of that during that point. It was really uplifting to me. So I have a new current favorite, but it's like I moved through a lot of it, but I kind of keep going back to these like certain genres of like just because that's comfort food for me. I go back to any of the end. Frank, I don't go back so much to because he just is so vulgar, and his earlier stuff is not so vulgar, but it's really funny. And a lot of people thought he was comedy music, but he's really good rock and roll though. It's just different. It's just really different. But I'm so impacted by things that in a musical way, certain things touch me in almost a religious experience to me. I mean, certain things hit me, and I don't know if it's. I assume I feel that everyone should feel the same way about hearing what I hear, but most people listen to that stuff I listen to like I can't stand that. I don't get it. It's a bunch of wailing, a bunch of and I get it too. I get where they're coming from.
Music's one of those things it's incredibly personal. Yeah. It's just like people finding other people attractive. Some things, there's so many variables involved, right? And two people, best friends, could like completely opposite things, even or even family members.
Absolutely. Well, like I say, my guitar player, the guitar player in the band that I play in is one of my best friends. I've known that guy for 30 plus years,
right?
And he doesn't like anything I listen to. He never has. So it's like, but I don't. He's a huge metalhead. I don't really listen to metal. So we've never liked each other's music, but we love each other.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, the reason I was asking that question is because I was thinking back to like for me, it's the Prodigy, which is drum and bass electronic music. I was around 17 when I was exposed to it.
Okay,
and that's my band. Like I have. The only CDs I have in my car are the Prodigy. Like I have a 6-disc changer. 4 of the discs are Prodigy. Nothing else in there.
Just I get it. Dude,
I listen to all different kinds of music, but like ultimately, like if I had to go on an island and only have that music, it would be that. Yeah. But yeah, I do like pretty wide range of music as well. But my theory was, I was wondering if it's nostalgia based or is it like at a certain point in your life, and I was just wondering if the age is different for everybody.
Okay, let me just put it like this. I remember being on a service road with my mother and brother and hearing Flashlight. I heard a song by Steely Dan, I'm sorry, I can't believe I just blanked out. One of my friends is probably going to slap me if he ever heard me just not even mention Steely Dan is one of my favorite bands. Steely Dan. That's a great chill band anytime. But hearing this song, Don't Take Me Alive, with my mother in the car, and I'm like 8 to 10 maybe. There's just, I have these real clear cut images driving down the road in about 89, listening to Zappa. I don't know why there's certain things that are stamped like that. I get that. And so for me, it kind of moves. But I also have the early stuff for me when I was real young is my parents listened to Neil Diamond, the more Hot August Night kind of Neil Diamond, more upbeat, more, and so we had a road trip we took as a kid and we had this album of his, I forget which one it was, but it had some really upbeat songs on it. And we drove to El Paso from Dallas. So you can imagine that's a long road trip with only about 6-8 tracks to jam to. And one of those was Neil Diamond. And we listened to that like a ton. So, I still listen to that Neil Diamond. I listen to classical. I listen to some new age stuff. I listen to all kinds of crazy things, dude. Big jazz, but my jazz fusion love, I think that's where a lot of the instrumental, my instrumental love bled out into a lot of other things. So,
okay. Quick question on Jerry Reed. Was he the football coach from Waterboy?
Yes. Yes, he is. It's what's funny. I've never seen the complete movie, The Waterboy, but I need to watch it. But I know he's in it, and when I saw this, like, oh my goodness, that's Jerry Reed. I love that guy. He's so funny. Some of his music is real funny, but Big Daddy's a little funny. But that song, The Claw, like I say, he does some playing on that it sounds like when I talk about multi-track recording, and what that is where people can sit there and keep recording line up on line up on line and have an indefinite amount of time. Back in the day, tape cost a lot of money. It still costs a lot of money if you want to record onto to a media other than digital anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the professionals, these guys, they just knocked it out in one pass. And so there's multiple mics being recorded, and people might be in different rooms recording at the same time to keep some separation in it, so they can control it better when on the mix. But you think you're hearing a guy playing 3 guitar parts? He is at the same time. Yes.
Jeez.
It's insane. And and so this is and the Claw is from like 62 or something like that. He had 2 of his songs covered by Elvis, Guitar Man and the U.S. Mail, which is hilarious. That's a really funny song, but I don't know Elvis's version. I only know Jerry's version. His picking is just, it'll knock you. It's crazy. And it's funny too.
Nice. Cool. All right. That was quite the diversion, but wanted to hear that.
But that's a deep subject though, because that's a big subject for me as a musician. So
I avoided asking so many questions, a danger of going an hour into this. So,
this is a whole subject for an episode. This is a standalone episode topic.
Okay, we'll write it down.
Yeah, there you go.
Add it to the list of pending episodes. Special edition episodes.
The soon to be announced at some point in some indefinite future point, the Superman versus Batman debate and the music.
Yeah,
impactful music in movies. The impactful music in movies.
Oh, yes, that's it.
Yes, that's a big one. But it's music again. I love it. I can talk music. That could be combined. Favorite bands, favorite music in movies.
I don't know, because when we get into the movies, there's going to be a whole host. Then we start getting to film as well, and then
we started watching 2001. Mm-hmm. This was being played while I was trying to type, and I couldn't type. I had to stop and watch. The music is playing. Nice. I'm like, oh, wait, what? Okay, I got to stop. She's like, do you want me to stop so we can watch it together? I'm like, yes, please. She's wanting to watch. I'm like, okay, she's going to wait for me. So
that's nice.
That's nice.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Starlight seems to be struggling to say something. Finally, she says, Butcher is right, We've already tried to take Vought down the right way. This isn't going to work. This is not going to stop Compound V from getting out there. Huey asks, so it's hopeless? Just kill them all? Like God will sort them out? Starlight shrugs and says, I mean, she doesn't really have an answer. Huey asks, then why are you even helping me? She counters with, why did you save me at the tower? Huey says, they were going to hurt you. Starlight says, yeah, but Huey, you could have gotten yourself killed. I mean, after the way I treated you, you had every reason to give up on me. So why didn't you? He says, I just would never. She says, that's why I'm helping. And maybe that's Huey's superpower, the effect he has on those around him to make them do the right thing.
I think that is very true. And I will quickly just bring up a quick biblical thing. There was a guy in the Bible listed as an encourager. His name's Barnabas. And so, I mean, that's a great gift. That's one of the greatest gifts a person can have that I know of, because that's the kind of person I am. Mm-hmm. I like to say, told people, be nice, I'm kind of compelled to be nice, though, due to my OCD.
But that's a good compulsion to have.
It is. It's the sweet disposition mixed thoroughly with OCD, and voila. Being encouraging, sometimes you do, and I think I've probably covered the being there proponent before. Sometimes just being there for somebody sometimes does a lot more than you realize. Sometimes you'll never be aware how much you could impact somebody, and hold them up at a moment that could be a crisis for them.
Yes. For example, at the beginning of episode 7, that guy that was getting radicalized, he was walking down the hallway. He smiled at that girl. She had her head buried in her phone.
Yeah.
Maybe if she had smiled at him, he would have had something else to put his time into instead of,
just, hey, you doing all right? Just one time.
Yeah.
That could have diverted that whole situation possibly.
Yeah. Good
call. That's a nicely spot. That's well thought out, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Huey and Starlight walk into an apartment. We see drug paraphernalia all over the coffee table. As we get a better look at the place, it appears to be the apartment that Maeve was in when she flipped the table over in anger when Elena told her she was leaving. And I thought this was Elena's apartment since Maeve had a different one at Vought Tower. Do you think they share this place together?
I don't know because I don't recall seeing her. We saw her place one time, but all we saw was the bar shot of Maeve's apartment. Remember when in season one, Starlight was in there having some drinks with her after her huge disappointment. And so I don't know. I remember when she came to Elena's place. Elena's place had the same kind of color scheme, but it was laid out differently.
Yeah, it was smaller.
It was much smaller,
and there's like a painting area. And then, so the thing with Maeve's apartment, we did see it when Ashley caught her in bed with those two dudes last episode.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Remember? And that would look like it was the Vought furnished.
Yeah, that looked very Vought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably a Vought tower, and they went out of their way. That's why I think Maeve has been so. I mean, Maeve went out of her. Well, Homelander actually outed her, but that was a big deal, and Maeve was working hard to be vulnerable. And when she was vulnerable due to the high pressure, Elena left, and I don't fault Elena for leaving.
Yes,
but
I agree.
But all that pressure on Maeve to do just that, she carries through, kind of at the point of a gun, but it still does it. To have Elena pull back, and I do not fault her, because I mean, that's swimming in some deep water, being anywhere in that building. I would not want to live in that building.
No,
you couldn't pay me to live anywhere close.
So, I mean, A-Train's popping in and out. Ashley's walking in willy nilly. It's like the doors aren't locked or something.
Exactly.
No
privacy.
One knows how to knock.
Yeah. They don't even give the fake like one knock and walk in. Even they don't even have that courtesy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah.
Maeve walks into the room and sits down on the couch. She says, "You were stupid to text. Everyone is looking for you." Starlight asks, "Where's Elena?" Maeve motions to Huey and asks, "This is the guy?" Second time this episode. No one can believe that she would choose Huey. It's crazy.
I know. It's like Rodney Dangerfield can't get no respect over here, dude. and Huey has proven himself. Now, it's one thing if the cat looked like Simon Pegg, like he does in the comics. I get that.
Simon Pegg's not a bad looking guy.
He's not a bad looking fellow, but he's a lot smaller. And this guy, he's 6'1", isn't he?
Yeah, he's 6'1".
So first off, he's 6'1". His parents automatically give him good looking genes, and he is a good looking fella. So it's like everyone's dogging on him like he's not a bad looking fella. I didn't think. I thought he's a pretty good looking fella. So
I guess it's the nerdy aspect of it. That's got to be what they're picking up on. He's kind of unsure of himself.
That might be not being sure of yourself can really make you lose sight of how someone looks. I think so. Well, there you go. Confidence plays a lot.
But I mean, to be fair, who is he surrounding himself with?
That's true.
They're like basically demigods, you know?
I mean, it's like the A-Team and me. It's like it's just like it's Deadpool 2. It's the guy with the mustache. I'm that guy. I think I can get something done because I got a mustache and a goatee. No, that's not going to cut it.
He was the only one that survived that drop, though, right?
He survived the drop, but lost the arm to the
that's right.
Young fellow to the young fellow who got in the wood
chipper, right? Yeah,
and puked the acidic vomit on his arm. And so,
yeah, that was bad.
That was brutal. Oh.
So after Maeve asks about Huey awkwardly shuffles his way across the room, stepping on debris, littering the floor, and holds his hand out, trying to introduce himself. Maeve doesn't shake it. She says, "He's even more of a twink than in the photo." Huey looks at Starlight, confused. Maeve says, "I could split that like dry firewood." Dude, I was laughing so hard. Can you imagine if a woman said that to you?
I think I would hope I could get away.
I'd be scared.
Would be really scared too. I think with reason. Yeah.
Huey lowers his hand saying, "Big fan," and backs away.
And I am a big fan of the big fan line, dude. That is great. It's just priceless. This is such a great. He's magnificent. I mean, that's a timing loaded episode, and I mean, that's brilliant timing. And I
It
mean,
is.
some of that, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so good.
Starlight says, I need to ask you something. It's a lot. I need you to testify. Maeve asks, testify? Starlight says, on the record, against Vought, against Homelander, Stormfront, everything. Maeve asks, why would I do that? Starlight says, because things are really bad and you're our last chance. Maeve says, pass. Starlight says, look, I get that it's dangerous. Maeve says, it's suicide, but that's not the reason. Starlight asks, well, then what is? Maeve says, I'm tired. Huey jumps in. He says, we're all tired, but they're hurting people. And sooner or later, they're going to hurt someone you love. Maeve says, am I talking to you? Man, she's really rude to him.
She's harsh. Yeah.
Yeah. Starlight says, look, I get that it's easier to just disappear inside of yourself. Trust me, it's all I want to do. But we can't, Maeve. We can't. This is a war now. And Maeve interrupts. She says, shut the up. You, haven't I done enough for you? Didn't I save your life? It doesn't matter what we do. Nothing changes. Nothing ever changes or gets better. And I'm tired. Just leave. Go. Take your twink and get the out of here. Man.
Again, I kind of do sympathize with her. I mean, I pre-opted that or preempted that with the saying that, yeah, I see it, man. I feel for Maeve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got her own problems and
she's got her demons, that's for sure.
Kind of disillusioned. Starlight's eyes are welling up with tears. She says, okay. She then turns to Huey and tells him, come on. Maeve sits and continues to smoke her cigarette as they leave. She does look like she's upset, though. It almost looked like her hand was shaking a little bit.
It was.
Now,
I think it was.
Let me ask you this. Do you think she's mad at herself for not wanting to help them? That some part of her knows that is ultimately the right thing to do and she's running from it?
I think that's a big part of it because, you know, that's what she should have already done for Elena. You know, that's because the stuff with Elena, you know, she should have told Elena, not let Elena found that video evidence, you know, should have softball, you know, led her into that. But
even beyond that, she should have stood up to Homelander in the airplane too, right? So ultimately, it's all coming back on her, not acting.
It does. And I think that she is just seeing all these poor choices. And, you know, the fact is that, you know, they've not hid this fact, but in the what little of the comics I've read, it's implied immediately that she is an alcoholic. It's like, oh, it's unusual to see you this early in the day without a drink in your hand. Kind of, you know, those kind of, you know, that kind of stuff. She's just constantly drunk. So she's that kind of alcoholic in the comics so far. And so, yeah, I think she's just seeing a lot of lost opportunity and a lot of anger here.
Yeah.
I think she's an episode behind everyone else's breaking point we've covered before. It's like, you know, she's running a little behind there.
Yeah, she's got a weird arc. It seems like she's going to start doing better, and then she has some setbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that does make her more human and emotionally than some of these other soups. I mean,
yes.
I'm not talking about Starlight or Kamiko, but, you know, the majority of the other ones that are so self-centered, it's like she's finally waking up to really see what's going on. And I think there's a lot of disappointment in that it's taken me this long to wake up to it as well.
Mm-hmm. My wife just stuck a little sticky note on my monitor. It says, isn't she brave, Maeve?
Oh, so sorry. We'd like to give a shout out to say thank you for pointing out our grievous error here in missing the brave Maeve thing. So we really appreciate that.
Oh man. Back in the Haitian King's basement, one of the gang members named Michel has come downstairs. He addresses Butcher saying, Monsieur Charcutier, we need you now. I like how he's also referring to Butcher in French.
I know it. Well, you've noticed that all those fellows are speaking French.
Yes. Well, they're Haitian, right?
Haitians, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As Butcher is walking through the pawn shop, we can hear Becca outside yelling, he said he lives under a pawn shop in East Flatbush. He has to be here. Butcher tells Michelle, hey, let her in. Becca says, help me. Then she sees Butcher and begins to break down. She's crying and she hugs Butcher. She says they took him. They have Ryan. Butcher asks, who's got him? We're taken to the Church of the Collective Renewal Center.
I like the center on there.
That's how it was spelled on the
It
sign.
is. I saw that. It
Yeah.
is. But it's. Do you do the same thing though? Do you find yourself doing Erickson? You're doing the center and color and check, not check, but parlor or gray. I wrote gray with an EY one time, and someone looked at me like, "Well, that's wrong." I'm like, it's just not really traditional English, American English, but it is English. I assure you.
When I'm writing these notes out, oddly enough, a lot of times I get flagged for the English spelling of something.
I do. That's all of those are done. Yeah.
Yeah. By default, I'm typing that. Maybe that's just stuff I've been reading. I'm just used to seeing it that way. I don't know.
I like seeing it that way. It's what I'm used to. Also, I think that's just part of it. So
okay. But Erickson's from Canada, right?
He's Canada, but that's an English territory, isn't it?
Oh, true. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Now, this Church of the Collective Renewal Center, this is the same location where the Deep and A-Train joined Alistair for lunch.
Yes.
That was the same lunch where the Deep ambushed A-Train with his truths. Alistair is hosting Mr. Edgar for lunch this time. Alistair says, I appreciate you coming all this way, Stan. A waiter brings in 2 fresh cans of Fresca.
Did you see that? The puff of air disturbed the napkins?
No. What's the significance of that?
I believe it's A-Train.
Nice catch, man. Yeah, because when we get to the end of this, that's going to be confirmed. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
There you go.
Wow. Talk about excruciating detail. Jeez.
Well, there you go. So that's one that I look for the soup slips. I'm the soup realist. Is that what? Is there such a thing? It's kind of like what is that? Is that like the cryptozoologist? Is there such a thing for like crypto for cryptobiologist or whatever? It's like that fake stuff, you know? Oh goodness.
Mr. Edgar says, well, I can't exactly be seen with you at the tower now, can I? Alistair asks Mr. Edgar if he would like a Fresca. Mr. Edgar declines, saying, no, thank you. Awful stuff.
It is, but I have a history of love of that drink, even though it's kind of nasty and good at the same time.
So when you say it's nasty, what does it taste like?
It's a grapefruit.
Okay.
It's like a Sprite meets a grapefruit beverage.
But it's not sweetened, right?
It's lightly sweetened, I think. If not, it may be completely sugar-free, possibly. That may be the possibility. My grandmother, I have a big fondness for Fresca because she kept it, and it was the only place I ever saw Fresca growing up was in Sherman, Texas. And I mean, it's like you didn't find it like in Dallas. You didn't find it much in Waco, hardly. You know how some things kind of tend to stay in certain areas depending on where the owner of the store shops.
Yes.
Kind of deal. So that's kind of how it was. And it's unusual. If you think you're getting a Sprite, you're going to get a lemon lime, but it's grapefruit. I'm not a big grapefruit guy. So it's not awful. It's just interesting.
So what I find interesting about this is I've been getting hooked on LaCroix sparkling water lately.
Oh, have you deep dived it? They did?
Well, not because of this. So at work, they have free drinks in the cafeteria area, and I don't really go in the office. I work from home most of the time now, but when I do go in the office, you
hit the free drinks.
If I'm thirsty, I'll have that. And so I tried the pamplemousse flavor, and that is grapefruit in French.
Was it good?
Yeah, I buy them now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just thought it was funny that I'm drinking.
It might be similar.
Yeah, it's not sweetened at all. It's just carbonated beverage with a slight taste of fruit. But I thought it was funny that it's grapefruit flavor, and the LaCroix one is French, and it doesn't say grapefruit on it. It says pamplemousse. So,
pamplemousse. Yeah. Have you ever thought about the soda stream to make your own carbonated water?
I have not, because I think the essence is really the critical component of that. It's not so much the carbonation, but like the flavoring.
They have flavors. They have water flavors. You can make flavored water. You can make Coca-Cola that actually has honest to goodness sugar versus fructose. Now it's not called Coke. It's just their cola, and it's Dr. Pete. For the doctor, I forget who has the Dr. Thunder, which is that
was Randall's, wasn't it?
Is it Randall's in that
I
darkness?
thought it
No,
was Randall's that had that.
We didn't have Randall's here. So
So Tom Thumb.
Tom Thumb. There you go. That's got to
Yeah,
be Tom Thumb's.
same thing. I think.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
you're right. They are owned by Randall's /
Yeah.
Fry's, the groceries.
Okay.
Not electronics, but Fry's groceries.
Oh yeah.
So
Man, we are going way off topic today.
oh my word. Oh my goodness. Okay. I guess we better get going. Steve, maybe even cover the notes.
Notes? What notes? What are you talking about?
Right. We're just off the grid on this one, dude.
Yeah.
Off the map. Okay.
After Mr. Edgar declines the Fresca, Alistair takes a sip of his Fresca, then says, "So, you've had a chance to look over our proposal?" Mr. Edgar says, "He publicly confessed to a sexual assault, Alistair." Alistair says, "And we've made a substantial investment in the Deep's rehabilitation. Our internal research bureau shows an impressive Q rating. He's an asset to Vought in these troubled times." For those wondering what a Q score is, the Q rating is a measurement of the familiarity and appeal of a brand, celebrity, company, or entertainment product, like a television show, used in the United States. The higher the Q score, the more highly regarded the item or person is among those who are aware of the subject.
What's it rating like a percentage wise? Is it a 1 to 10 or is it like up to like 100 percentile kind of deal? Or do you know?
I think I saw that.
Okay. I was just curious if you knew offhand. I'll dig a little into that.
Okay. That's going to be edition
That'll
for
be
next week.
Yeah. 3-1 edition. Looking forward to that. If we ever make it through this night's episode. I've got all night, so I know you don't. So.
I mean, we're like halfway. We're doing all right. Mr. Good. Edgar asks, "Oh, what sort of commission is the church getting these days? 40%? 50%?
Ooh,
Alistair says, "Sounds like you're open to reinstatement. That's fantastic. What about A-Train? You do need a speedster since Shockwave exploded." Mr. Edgar says, "Harder sell. 1 has been back is redemption. 2 is weakness. Stormfront has problems with him, and at the moment, I have to indulge her." Alistair asks, "What's her problem with A-Train?" Mr. Edgar says, "I understand that she was among your grandfather's first followers back when the collective was a startup." Alistair says, "I can neither confirm nor deny that." Mr. Edgar laughs and says, "Then your internal research bureau knows exactly what Stormfront's problem is with A-Train." Now, this is incredible. Mr. Edgar knows who and what Stormfront is and also what she represents, yet he is still running Vought. And that kind of makes me wonder what level of influence Stormfront actually has at Vought. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm starting to see that.
So my question is Mr. Edgar like Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars, who he was so good that even the Empire, which was notoriously xenophobic, was willing to make him a Grand Admiral, and he was an alien?
I think that the latter is kind of true. I think that despite their objections to him, any of his racial characteristics or whatever that they don't like, it's like he is such a powerful personality that he's worth having on your team. And just to kind of FYI, I just rewatched all the Star Wars television stuff with the Lady Love here and all this Thrawn stuff. Dude, those hints about Thrawn, it's killing me, dude. It's killing me.
Yeah.
You know they've gone off canon, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just found this out this week because I finally finished the Boba Fett stuff with her. That was real. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, wasn't it kind of like The Mandalorian?
I haven't watched Boba Fett yet.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. I thought it was great to finally get the Boba Fett story.
Okay.
Do you know who the guy playing Boba is?
It's the same guy that played Jango Fett.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
He's been the voice of Boba. They've gone back and retroactively dubbed him in.
Oh, I hate that. I don't like
that
when they do that.
But I'm guessing everyone that works for Star Wars probably understands that this is just how it is with them.
Yeah, after George Lucas switched out Anakin's actor in Return of the Jedi when he was a ghost with Hayden Christensen, I was like, "Come on, man, don't do it."
I was deeply disappointed by that.
Yeah,
deeply disappointed by that.
Yeah, and then they say the negatives have been destroyed. You can never go back to the original. Do you remember when George Lucas said that? Because people were asking, "Just give me the original movies in Blu-ray." And he's like, "They don't exist. We destroyed them."
Hey, I've brought this
Right.
up about South Park with Lucas and oh my goodness, what's the other fellow? Spielberg, where they they've gone back and making these movies more family friendly, so they digitally edit out everything violent and replaced everything with walkie talkies and Ewoks. You know, it's like all the threatenings and all the Nazi references have been replaced with was it persons of different political preferences? So
Jeez.
it's like, oh, it's rough.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man, again.
I'm sorry. It
No,
was authorized down
sorry. No,
dog.
no. I mean, I brought up the Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah.
Alistair says, Deep is still a win. Shall I have business affairs reach out? Mr. Edgar says, please do.
Hmm.
Alistair says, let me walk you out. They both stand up and shake hands. Then they walk out of the room. After they have left, A-Train opens a door from an adjoining room and steps into the dining room. He whispers, sons of I was going to ask you, do you think that Alistair knew he was there? But given what you noticed,
Yeah.
I'm inclined to say no. A-Train
No.
snuck in there.
Yeah, he didn't notice it. I don't think he knew what happened.
Yeah. Back in the Haitian King's basement, we see Kamiko moving some things aside on a couch. She then pats it, indicating she wants Becca to sit down. Frenchie walks up with some food. He says, voila, jambon beurre. Simple, but it's the ingredients, Jambon beurre
I think you got it, man.
is a ham and butter sandwich in a baguette. It is simple, delicious, and a classic French food. Looks delicious. The one he made for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it said it sounds really good, and it almost spells jamboree. But jambone means sandwich, and beware means butter. So a butter sandwich.
Okay.
So it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Becca says, thank you. MM brings her a Diet Coke and says, Diet Coke with lime, right? Becca seems a bit surprised he would know that. She says, yeah. MM says, we've heard a lot about you. They're all staring at her. She says, I'm sorry. I wish I could say the same. You all close with Billy? Dude, it is crazy how they're all fawning over her.
Well, can you imagine having worked with a colleague for 8 years and his entire purpose for living has been vengeance for this woman's perceived death?
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out she's alive. And that's hard enough for them to take in when they hear that. They're like, whoa, they immediately drop everything to focus on that. And then here she is.
Yeah.
I mean, they've built her up. They've mythologized her in a way, in their own, and not in a bad way, but it's one of the ways they all have this image of her as who is this woman that he is so driven, that would drive a man to this kind of deal. I think so. I think they're just kind of like, whoa, she's like become like a superstar in their eyes because of who she is, and she's just huge in their eyes.
Okay. After she asked them if they're close with Billy, MM says, yeah, I mean, sure. She asks, why the hesitation? MM says, well, let's just say he ain't really close to a lot of people, Well, except you, of course. Frenchie says, I'm close to him. Becca looks at Frenchie and he assures her, I am. Butcher walks up and says, all right, lads, let's give her some air, eh? They all back off a bit. Butcher says, so Ryan ain't on any of their social media, which is good on one hand, but it don't help us none. Becca says, so you think he's in the tower? Butcher says, not sure. You stay here, rest up. I'm going to go do a little digging. Then he begins to walk off. Becca gets up and follows him. She says, hey, Billy, I'm sorry, okay? I have no right to ask you to help me after what I said to you, but Butcher interrupts her. He says, look, don't you worry, all right? I will find your son. She gives him a kiss and a hug and thanks him. Butcher turns to see Frenchie, Kamiko, and MM all watching them smiling. He says, off, you lot. I love it. It's great. It's like he's embarrassed almost.
It is. It's brilliant. He's actually like he has to be human. They don't see this side of him. They can't believe this exists.
Soft human at that. Yeah.
They can't believe this actually exists. So.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Edgar is walking out of a building to a waiting vehicle when his phone rings. A military Humvee is passing in the street. I'm pointing these out as they appear throughout the episode just to kind of show the military presence that they're showing around the city.
Yeah. There was like 2 or 3 in that line, wasn't there?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're I'm like you. They're showing you this so that we know the military is here.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Edgar answers and says, "What is it, Samantha?" Samantha says, "Mr. Edgar, normally I wouldn't put this through, but the man says it's life or death, and you'd know him." Mr. Edgar asks, "What's his name?" Samantha says, "William Butcher." This causes Mr. Edgar's eyebrows to raise in surprise. Homelander opens the door to Ashley's office for Stormfront. This is in the Vought Tower. Ashley nervously stands up and says, Hi. We've been having a super fun time in here. I've just been Googling all the names of the cats in Cats. Can you believe Ryan has never seen Cats?" As she's speaking, Ashley is pulling on her hair on her head. Her trichotillomania is acting up.
Yes, it is.
And I cannot believe that we have discussed Cats twice
I know.
in recording these podcasts. How is that even possible?
I don't know, especially since I'm such a person that does not incline toward musicals at all. But it's because it's the only one I've actually seen. So I mean, like I said, I've seen a couple on movies, but it's the only Broadway style show I've seen live.
Mm-hmm.
So I have actually seen the old version in the '90s. So I was like, oh, that was tough. That was an endurance test right there, dude.
Yeah, turn you into a mellophobe.
Yeah. I got to find that for the hatred, not an irrational hatred, just a straight up hatred, an animus toward musicals. I don't know. Is it me? It could be, oh my goodness, mellow animus. I got no idea. I'll work it out.
Melomania, not mania. We got to figure that one out.
We'll figure that out. I cannot let this go.
Yeah,
I will not let this go.
Coming soon to an episode near you.
Go ahead, dude.
Stormfront asks, "What happened to your hair?" The camera angle shows a bald spot on Ashley's head. Now, man, I'm starting to feel bad for her. Yeah. They pushed her so close to the edge. Now, to be fair, she chose to be here. She chose to come back to Vought, but yes, I do feel bad for her.
I do. I mean, and you're right. This is a choice, but it's bad enough having to work for these people. But could you imagine having to babysit for these two nut jobs? That's got to be an
I mean, Ryan seems like a really nice boy, though.
No, Ryan seems easy, but she is so terrified, and I don't blame her, of screwing this up. I mean, look at her reaction when they come in the room. She feels that comment about the cats is almost like she feels guilty that he hasn't seen Cats and she hasn't shown it to him yet. It's almost that bad. I mean, she looks that stressed, and look at the hair, the bald spot.
Yeah,
I mean, that's I felt kind of bad when I saw that. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah. Ashley responds to Stormfront and she says, "Oh, nothing." Homelander addresses Ryan saying, "Hey, buddy, sorry we had to leave you all alone. Dad's work can sometimes get pretty crazy." Ashley says, "He hasn't been alone. I've been here. I got him all these dipping sauces." What's he dipping in these sauces? Tendies?
You mean chicken tenders, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, I see a Tony Cicero's box on the table.
Tony Cicero's breadsticks?
Yes. It could be. Maybe it's breadsticks. Maybe they got wings. I don't know. Because they've shown up in this. Is it Tony Cicero's that we keep seeing in this?
Yes.
So I don't. They must be a sponsor, but I don't know. I guess maybe they delivered some breadsticks, wings,
mozzarella sticks.
Mozzarella sticks. That'd be good.
Okay.
I don't know. That was as far as I could push it. I did see the Cicero's box, but it was good so catch. Quick I barely saw it. I worked hard for that one.
Yeah, good catch. Homelander asks Ryan, "You didn't want to play Vought Tournament of Heroes?" Homelander feigns whispering and says, "I'm the main guy." This makes Ryan laugh. Ryan says, "I was working on my states." Homelander asks, "States?" Ryan says, "Well, yeah, I write down all 50 states as fast as I can in either alphabetical order or geographical order." Homelander asks, "You're giving yourself homework?" Ryan says, "Well, Mom says that learning is a gift, so..." Homelander doesn't like this. He is shaking his head and says, "That mom of yours, she sure does have some cute little sayings." Ryan shyly asks, "Do you think maybe I could call her?" Homelander says, Ashley puts on a hopeful smile. Stormfront comes in to save the situation. She says, "Hey, Ryan." She grabs the books he had on the couch and moves them to the side before sitting down. She says, "I get it. I would feel lonely too if I was cooped up all day by myself in this West Elm Death Star. She looks around at Ashley's office as she says this. Ashley, again pulling on her hair, realizes her office design is being criticized. Homelander
Hmm.
says, in agreement. I mean,
Yeah, that's hot.
I like her office.
I like her office, and this is the first time I was able to see that the engravings full bodied behind her desk of the
Yeah.
whole of that was amazing looking.
Yeah, they look really cool.
I'm like that was as much as I was kind of like against her changing it, I'm blown away by that office. I think it looks pretty awesome. Now we brought up the we love that kind of that spare minimalist flair, and she brought it. She
Yeah.
brought it, dude.
Yeah.
And
The only thing that really I was kind of partial to was when Ashley's standing there in this scene, we get a better look at that painting on the wall that's like earth, but it's also a face. And I wasn't too much into that painting.
I didn't notice that one.
Yeah, they
Sorry.
showed it the last. No, it's okay. They showed it the last time, like the first time we saw our office this season, and then we got
Okay.
a better look at it this time. I prefer that statue that she has against the window, the sculpture, which is it's like a humanoid figure, but it's
Yes.
missing all its
The
limbs
one
except for
leg.
one leg. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
I
that
like
one.
that too.
Stormfront continues saying, "How about we take a field trip?" She pats Ryan on the shoulder, then looks up at Homelander and asks, "What do you say, Dad?" Homelander nods.
What is this strange emotion I'm feeling here? Am I warming up to Ashley? Is her Glenn Close effect not holding up? Is it not holding together?
She's
I'm like,
she's like in the yellow now.
yeah, she's backed off a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of feeling a little bit bad. This is kind of weird. I'm
Yeah,
feeling things like sympathy and like. I mean,
I'm looking at her as more of a victim now, I think,
than
I did before. Before she was
Yeah.
just an annoyance, but now I feel like she's actually being traumatized. So I don't like
too.
seeing that.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like you, I don't want to see that happen to you.
Yeah. We are taken to Planet Vought. This is a blatant ripoff of Planet Hollywood. We hear an announcer say, "Welcome to Planet Vought. Have a super day."
Super day.
Immediately to the left of the entrance, there is a pillar covered in cover art from the comics.
Now, this little FYI that there's a song playing in the background at Planet Vought, "Can't Stop the Rhythms" by Atomania. Carl Urban's son, Indy, is in this band.
Oh, cool.
So thanks, X-Ray, Amazon X-Ray.
Carl Urban also has a band. He's in a band himself, right?
Oh, I don't know. I know nothing about him.
I think he plays. Okay, I thought when I was reading about the show, I thought I saw that he was in a band as well.
I could get that from him.
Yeah,
he's got that kind of vibe. He's kind of rugged. He kind of exudes that a little bit.
Now on this pillar, I see Stormfront, the Deep, a comic for the Seven, Homelander, Starlight, Translucent, and a few others I can't quite make out. Further back, I see others on the wall. There's one for Soldier Boy, Cold Snap, Stacker, it looked like, and another one that starts with Ground. I couldn't make out. He's like blue and buff, but I couldn't really make out what the rest of the word is. Like, not sure.
You caught so much more. I kept going back and looking, and I could barely make out anything but the main one on that super huge mural with Homelander and Maeve and Noir, I think. But that's the one that caught my eye. And there was a spot where they paused on that display case. It's so quick. I paused it, and the only one that sticks out is the terrible Homelander plush.
Yeah, there was 3 bobbleheads in there. There was like Stormfront, Maeve, and Starlight, I believe. The Girls Get It Done bobbleheads. There was an A-Train figurine in there, a Black Noir figurine. They had a bunch of tumblers in there with logos on them, and there was another. I think there was an A-Train comic in there as well.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also one other wall panel of Crimson Countess as well. So she's the anti-communist one that we saw. There was a poster in the Haitian King's basement of her.
Well, I'm thinking that, like I say, I'm not. We're going to see soon enough. Season 3 starts for us this week, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I know that we're going to see. We're seeing some. I know that Team Payback is going to be present for the most part. I think. So I'm excited. We may see some of these people that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think a lot of this was Easter eggs for season 3 this season.
I think so.
Yeah. The announcer says, let's give a warm welcome to Cashton, who's turning 5 today. A waiter greets a table saying, welcome to Planet Vought. Would you like to try out our new Brave Mave Rainbow Veggie Burger?
Thank you, Aaron. We really appreciate that, pointing out the missing on the brave part of Maeve. So, again, thank you.
As the waiter is waiting for a response, something catches his attention. He exclaims, holy. The camera pans around and we can see Homelander, Stormfront, and Ryan have arrived. Ryan is looking around. He sees the glass case that we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And I did have a note here about the Homelander cuddle plush mixed in with the assortment of bobbleheads and action figures.
Okay, there you go. It's just like I said, I reviewed, and my reviewing is I see things you don't, you see things I don't. So I love that.
Yeah.
But there you go.
They sit down at the table. Stormfront says, pretty cool, huh? Ryan is smiling. Homelander sits down, then leans over and says, hey, wait until you try the big homie with bacon. It's so good. And the mocha noir shake, it's amazing. And it won't be lumpy like your mom's. Ryan laughs. Some fans walk up to the table. One says, Homelander, can I get a selfie? Homelander points at Ryan and says, ask the boss. The fan isn't sure what to do. Homelander tells her he's just kidding and that, of course, she can take a selfie. People are now approaching Stormfront. They start asking for selfies. The table starts getting swarmed by fans. Ryan begins to look a little bit concerned about being surrounded by this many people with this much activity. He begins getting more and more upset as the table is swarmed. He's covering his ears. Homelander notices that Ryan is freaking out. He kneels down and asks if he's okay. Ryan says, I want my mom. Homelander says, okay, I got you. He picks Ryan up, then addresses the crowd. He says, thank you, everyone. Excuse me. He walks outside. We can see people approaching him from all sides. He asks them to stay back. He then takes off with Ryan, leaving Stormfront at the restaurant. We can again see 2 Humvees parked outside the restaurant with some soldiers standing guard near them. Do you think they were posted up there because this is kind of a superhero-themed restaurant and could potentially be targeted for attack?
I think so. I
think
that's very well, because because there is an enormous crowd in there.
Well, I mean, any restaurant, like
might have but especially in like those are like in the city. Their restaurants are a lot bigger and they seem to hold a lot more people than I'm used to seeing in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, to me, that's a pretty stinking big place there. Mm-hmm. Kind of blown away by that crowd.
Yeah. Back to Huey and Starlight. They are in a car driving back from Maeve's. She's looking at the cross her mom gave her. Huey asks, new bling? Starlight says, Donna got it for me. Pretty sure she got it at Dwayne Reed. She chuckles and says, oh gosh, moms, the gift that keeps on giving forever. When Huey doesn't respond, she says, oh, I'm sorry. Dwayne Reed is a pharmacy chain like Walgreens. I believe they may be the same company.
They are. They are owned by Walgreens Boots Alliance. Mostly in the city is where you will find them. Mm-hmm. But Walgreens and Boots. Boots was an English pharmacy chain formerly known as Boots the Chemists. And Walgreens took complete control. And then at one point about, I guess, 2011 and 3 years later in 2014, they took complete control.
The Boots Alliance thing is confusing to me. Like, I just get a picture of Cavender's Boot City for some reason.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We're Texans. When you hear Boots,
but the only people in Texas probably think of that.
Yeah, if you hear Boots, we always just think Boots. Yeah.
I was like, why is a pharmaceutical company working with a boot company?
The guy's name was John Boot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Was the guy who was Boots the Chemist. So
that's a pretty bad name, man.
That is a great name.
Boots the Chemist.
Boots the Chemist. Yeah.
It sounds like a super villain name or something.
That or a band name.
Yeah.
That's a great band name, I think.
Yeah.
Song title. I'll give it a song title.
Okay. Maybe that could be our next theme song.
That could be our next theme song. I'll work on Boots the Chemist.
Yeah.
There we go. You've dubbed it so.
Huey says, what? No, it's fine. Starlight says, no, I'm an asshole for about my mom when yours is. Huey says, my mom's not dead. Starlight is surprised. She says, she's not? Oh, it's just you never mentioned her. So Huey says, she left when I was 6. Starlight says, oh, wow. I'm really sorry.
In the comics, Petite Huey's parents are still happily married.
Really?
Yes.
So I wonder why they chose to go this route in the show.
You know, they've made some choices that I'm glad that I didn't read the comic first off, because I have a like of the show first over the comic.
Yeah.
And normally it's the other way around, and that can ruin things for me.
Oh,
or
yeah.
it can be delightful, like my love, like I've mentioned Doom Patrol before. They did it justice in spirit. If you know, so much so that it's spectacular and weird, but I can't believe they did it. But anyhow, this one is I like the comics better. I'm sorry, I like the television better because I knew it first. And I started watching it. It wasn't until I watched the first episode that I saw Garth Ennis' name pop up, and I about fell over backwards. I was like,
Okay.
"Oh wow,
cool."
I didn't read it till this year either. And I like I said, I don't really like it, not as much as the show. So
okay. Huey says that's where Billy Joel comes from. She and we used to have these dance parties. She was fun. She made awesome 7 costumes for Halloween, and then one day she just left and never called again, not even a card. You know, it was like some silent alarm went off, and she was like, well, them, time to go. His voice is breaking as he's telling this story. Starlight says, no, I'm sure it's not that. Huey says, what would you call it? Starlight has no answer. And I tell you what, man, I can't think of anything more selfish as a parent. Like, having kids is a huge responsibility, and to just abandon your child like that, father or mother, it's just as bad.
I agree. That's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Huey says, I guess that's why I always just kind of hang in there, no matter how bad it gets, because I don't want to be like her. This story is really causing Starlight to have some sympathy for Huey. You can kind of see it in her face, or you can really see it in her face.
Yeah, you really can. And this also finally gets a big piece of the puzzle of Huey out of the way for us finally.
Yes.
Where's it's like, well, he doesn't know, but she's alive and gone.
So and the dad too, because we kept asking season 1, why is the dad this way?
Yeah, that would do it to you. That would kind of screw you up. Have your wife leave you and just abandon you to raise a kid by yourself, and a guy doesn't generally have, probably not expecting to raise a baby or raise a guy on his own, having to learn the hard way. That would be hard emotionally.
You seen the movie The Town with Ben Affleck?
No, I need to. I've wanted to.
Are you familiar with the premise of that movie? I should probably just go through it for the crowd, for the people who are listening. So The Town, it takes place in Boston, and it's following the bank robbery culture that allegedly takes place there in the Southie projects, I believe is how they refer to it. So Ben Affleck's in it, and it has what's the Hawkeyes?
He directed it, didn't it? Oh yeah, Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner's in it. He's his friend. A lot of people you'll recognize in it.
Yeah, but didn't Affleck direct?
I believe he did.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Ben Affleck's dad in this was also a bank robber. He was in jail, and at one point in the movie, he goes to visit the dad. They're talking about the mom. Ben Affleck's mom left when he was a kid, kind of like Huey did.
Okay.
The dad tells him, I believe she was a drug addict, and she just went off to go do drugs and stuff.
Right.
Later on, you find out something about why she was into drugs from somebody else in the movie. But this situation here kind of reminded me of that. I'm not saying Huey's mom was a drug addict, but it's not common where you see the mom leaving. A lot of times you'll see the dad leaving.
That's normally what I think of.
Yeah. So I don't know if it just seems worse when a mom leaves, because you just think that mothers have that nurturing instinct a lot of times, right? That's why it's so shocking in a lot of cases.
I think that's what it is. It's a big piece of the puzzle into place, and it's like, at least that says a lot, and it answers a lot about Huey and his dad for sure.
Huey continues, that's kind of clingy and pathetic, isn't it? Starlight says, no, it isn't at all. They are sharing a nice moment together when suddenly they hear a loud noise and A-Train pops into the back seat. He says, what's up, birds?
It made me jump, dude.
Yeah, surprised the heck out of me. Both Huey and Starlight scream in surprise. They almost get into a car accident. Huey manages to pull the car over and parks it, then jumps out and runs to the sidewalk yelling, "What the? What the?" Starlight has also gotten out of the vehicle. A-Train calmly gets out. Starlight asks, "How did you find us?" A-Train says, "Please, I can cover the boroughs in like 3 hours. I went looking, that's all." Starlight says, "I'm surprised your heart can take it." A-Train says, "My heart is just fine. Take a step closer and I'll show you." Huey says, "Hey, I saved your life, hole, and now you're coming after us?" A-Train speeds up to stand immediately in front of them. This scares them again. I don't know why he had to do that.
It's just being aggressive.
Yeah. He hands a folder over to Starlight. He looks at Huey and says, "We're even now." Starlight opens the folder, then gawks in surprise. She says, "Holy, is this true?" A-Train says, "Everything makes a little more sense now, doesn't it?" Huey asks, "Where did you get this?" A-Train clarifies, "I didn't get it, okay? I was never here. You got that shit on your own, yeah?" Huey is confused. He asks, "But why are you doing this?" A-Train says, "'Cause I want back in. So I need her gone. That bitch." He turns and speeds off, causing them to flinch again. We get a closer look at the cover of the folder, and it has a label that says "Confidential Information." There is a seal that says "Church of the Collective" within the border.
I really like that whole scene. Even
Yeah,
with it's a good scene.
him popping in there like that was
Oh yes,
hilarious. Yeah.
that is funny.
Butcher walks into an empty restaurant. It's a nice establishment. He walks up to a security guard where he has searched for weapons. He is allowed to enter, and we see Mr. Edgar is sitting on a couch waiting for him. Actually, I think that's a trick of the perspective. He's actually sitting at a table, and there's a couch in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Edgar addresses a waiter saying, "Would you ask Mario if he could whip up some of those Gruyere puffs?" Now, this has to be the Vought cafeteria that the Deep was bragging about, where they
Probably
burgled
so.
that chef. Yeah.
Right. Now, if that's Gruyere, that's a cheese, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Edgar addresses Butcher, saying, "Would you like an order? They're worth the cheat day." Butcher says, "I assume you got a man out there with a clean shot?" Mr. Edgar says, "More than one." Butcher says, "Then I'll skip the hors d'oeuvres if you don't mind, and we'll just cut straight to it, yeah?" Mr. Edgar says, "You mentioned on the phone that you could help with Homelander's son. I must say, I'm not sure what you mean." Butcher says, "That boy is your only possible contingency against Homelander. Now, that contingency don't work if they're off playing Ward and the Beeve. I can fix that."
I love that Beaver reference. My late missus always told me she thought when I met her folks, she said I felt like I took Beaver to the wrong side of the tracks.
Nice. A waiter has set a glass down for Mr. Edgar, juiced a lime into it, and poured some carbonated beverage into the glass. I don't see a LaCroix can, but I have to assume that's what it is.
Well, yeah, I would make that assumption. And have you tried have you tried plain LaCroix with lime in it like that?
I have not, but I'm going to need to.
Yes, you
I'll
are.
get back to you on that.
Okay.
I have limes right now. I got LaCroix right now.
All right, dude.
I will report back later.
I bet it's delightful.
Yeah, I bet it's very good.
It's great.
Mr. Edgar thanks the waiter by name, and the waiter leaves. Mr. Edgar says, "Homelander's a friend. Why would I betray him?" Butcher says, "Because you're a ruthless bastard." Mr. Edgar eats one of his puffs, chews for a moment, that says, "That's hurtful." Butcher says, "You turned a racist piece of into America's sweetheart. What word would you use?" Mr. Edgar takes a drink. He thinks for a moment, then says, "Stormfront's good at making people angry. Angry people want Compound V. Compound V raises our stock price. Look, I'd have preferred V remain a secret, but we play with the cards we're dealt. It's not ruthless. It's prices per share. That's all." Butcher says, "Maybe you should take a look in the mirror, mate, because that should bother you." Mr. Edgar says, "Of course she does, but it's not about me. I can't lash out like some raging entitled maniac. That's a white man's luxury."
Ooh, such an unnecessary remark. And racist to boot. You know?
Do you think, I mean, I can kind of see his viewpoint.
I get some viewpoint on that, but if you want to point out anything different about people by the color of their skin, like pointing out that that's a white man's luxury, that is indeed a racist remark. It's silly to, I take no offense at it. I take offense at the white privilege. I do take offense at the white man's privilege. I kind of get tired of that stuff because there might be, there's just no statistical proof. I understand there's tons, I'm sure there's lots of anecdotal evidence and people have dealt with things personally, but and there might be some things that have happened in the past that most assuredly would have been white privilege. But I mean, man, come on.
Are you familiar with the concept that when a person of color gets like angry about something, they're perceived as more aggressive?
No, I
Have
haven't
you
heard
ever
that.
heard of that?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. Like people will overrate how aggressive they're being
Oh, okay.
sometimes. So
Okay.
I that's kind of how I interpreted it.
Okay. And
Now,
that could very well be.
But like Giancarlo, what's his name? Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes.
He's Hispanic, isn't he? He's not black. Or is he?
I
Is he half?
I believe he really is South American.
Okay. But I guess if he's like Dominican or Haitian, I mean, like their heritage is kind of mixed already, isn't it?
And you'll get some mixed. I was going to say South American. I think has a more of a mixed culture than something more so than in like than in Central America, like in the Mexico area. I think you tend to run into darker folks down in the South America sides mixed in with them. So because you also get some of the Indian stock, the Aztec stock that's left, kind of mixed in there too. So it's kind of a mixed bag of stuff. But for me, this is a writer thing and not an actor point. But Stan Edgar loses points on awesomeness and a demotion to just Stan for being a crybaby.
Oh man,
Gus would have never said that.
Damn.
Gus, so Stan is crying that he has no privilege, please. The guy could take a box cutter to whoever he would like, more so than Gus Fring ever could have. And he's whining. So
he didn't lose any points with me.
Okay, I lost. Well, there's another point here that he's going to lose another point, and I'll get to this. It's purely a Southern thing, and this will bring this up, and it might sway you, it might not. But I lost the Admiral Thrawn respect. He's not Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's just Admiral Thrawn. He's just Admiral Thrawn. Okay, so he's still awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to call him Stan until he redeems himself.
Butcher nods, then says, "So it's just business then, eh?" Mr. Edgar says, "When, Mr. Butcher, in history, has it ever been about anything different?"
Is that not quite possibly the truest statement I've ever heard on any show?
I was thinking about it, and I think that's true.
It's very true. It's like I think that's almost along with why do people? It's like it's along with one of the great meanings of life is, but most of the things is like because we all have to work and eat. So
yeah, it's always about
it's a very true statement.
Yeah, getting resources, whether it's livestock or crops or whatever. It's like,
always it's nothing but buying and selling. Oh, it's what you got to do, man. That's what life is. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
Butcher asks, "And what makes you think that you can control that racist?" Mr. Edgar sighs and looks at his watch. He says, "Look, I've got to get across town." Butcher says, "Look, I can get the boy away from Homelander, all right?" Mr. Edgar asks, "How?" Butcher reaches into his pocket and pulls out a phone. He says, "That's my business. When I got him, I'll call your people. They zero in on this cell signal and then come and scoop him up. And then you do a better job of hiding him this time, yeah?" Mr. Edgar says, "You have my word. I will get Rebecca and Ryan somewhere safe." Butcher says, "No, not Becca. Becca stays with me." Now that's cold. Yeah. How the heck would he possibly be able to convince Becca of this one? That's crazy.
He must be one charming son of a gun to think he can pull that off. But Becca has to be prepared for this. She was prepared for this last time when he was in the compound to get her.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows he's thinking it.
Right.
So,
yeah. Mr. Edgar pushes back. He says, "But that's the whole point, that he's raised by his mother." Butcher says, "Find him a new mom. I'm taking my wife back. That's the deal." Mr. Edgar asks, "And what happens when Rebecca shows up on my doorstep begging to be reunited with her boy?" Butcher says, "You say it's the only way you can guarantee Ryan's protection from Homelander. because, as you know, a mother will do anything to protect her son. That's actually pretty clever.
It is. It's
Yeah,
better thought out.
it's diabolical.
It's diabolical, brother. You're right.
Butcher has now stood up to leave. Mr. Edgar looks at him and says, "And you call me a ruthless bastard."
Right?
Butcher says, "You tell me where he is, and I'll do the rest." He holds his hand out to Mr. Edgar. Mr. Edgar reaches out and shakes his hand.
This is the other point deduction. Stan has a limp wristed handshake.
I did notice that.
Dude,
I didn't really internalize it, but I was like, that handshake looks a little weak.
dude, my lady love she has some super strong hands. She hurts me on a massages. That woman would crush my hands. So it's like, dude, she would expect a firmer handshake than that. Yeah. So that's it. There we go. Stan, you're on notice.
Yeah.
Giancarlo, I love you. It's just nothing personal, sir.
Man, how did we go from episode 1, he destroys Homelander in his office, to this?
I know. A limp handshake. It's like, no. It's a Southern boy's worst dream. It's like everything I like about a guy, but he's got a limp handshake. It's like, oh man, is it moist? It's the question though.
Doubtful.
Is it? I hope not.
Homelander is on the porch of his cabin in the woods. Stormfront lands out front with a jolt of electricity. She asks, "Where's Ryan?" Homelander says, he's inside. He doesn't want to talk. She says, "So go in anyway." Homelander says, No. I tried. He wants to be left alone." Stormfront says, "You are the strongest man in the world, and you're scared of a little boy." She puts her hand on his chest and continues, "He's your blood. Just talk to him. Be the man I know you are." Homelander does look scared a bit. He's pretty out of his element.
Donnie, you're out of your element. But yes, he is completely out of his element here. And I'm sorry, but I was pretty sure you baited me on that one, but I don't think so by your reaction. Oh,
I did.
Oh, okay, good. But yeah, he does look scared.
Mm-hmm.
He looks scared.
I have an analogy here for some gamer friends.
Okay.
Now, this scenario where Homelander has just gathered a child without raising the child from birth is very similar to when you buy a character that's max level in a massively multiplayer game. So normally you would start from level 1, and as you level up, you get skills as you go. And by the time you get to max level, you kind of learned how to play the character. You may or may not have mastered it, but at least you're familiar with the concepts, right? Now, if you just skip ahead to the end, you never built all that knowledge up or skill. So when you jump in, you freak out and you don't know how to play the character right. And I think that's what Homelander's going through right now. He bought his fatherhood role, you know, and he's like having trouble adapting.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's so funny. He's all of a sudden instant dad to an eight-year-old. I mean, that's
like, an 8-year-old that looks older. I think he's growing faster than usual.
Yeah, well, maybe so.
Because the gestation period seemed to be quick. They said he was growing extremely quick in the womb, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was like days.
Yeah. So I have to assume that he's growing faster as well, which confuses me because they age more slowly when they're adults.
Right.
So that doesn't reconcile to me.
So, well, is it like cats and dogs? They age quicker in those earlier years, and then when they kind of start matching a 1-for-1 as we get past like 12 or something like that?
Sure.
I don't know. Just throw it.
I accept. Sure. They're on the dog or cat continuum.
For the early part of their life.
Yeah. Homelander enters the house to find Ryan performing his practice on the states of the U.S. Ryan is laying on the couch, facing the back of the couch so Homelander can't see his face. He's listing off the states alphabetically, then he stops and apologizes. Homelander says, No, buddy, don't you be sorry. I should have known better. Ryan sits up and faces Homelander. He says, there were just so many people. This goes to my point about the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be before you start exposing them. Yeah. I talked about that last episode, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Homelander says, yeah, there was. He sighs and walks closer to Ryan. He says, I remember the first time I was in a crowd. Ryan says, probably didn't bother you. Homelander says, I was terrified. All these people staring at me and reaching out, trying to grab me and egging me on to use my powers. I felt like I was drowning. Ryan asks, well, what'd you do? Homelander says, well, I took off. I flew away. They found me 80 miles down the I-9, crying my little eyes out. Ryan asks, you? Cry? Homelander says, yes, but I'm a man, so not in a long while. But who knows? Maybe next time you'll fly away. Maybe with me? Ryan says, look, I know you want me to be like you, but Dad, I'm not. He looks up at Homelander. Homelander says, son, I didn't just wake up one day and fly out the door. That's not how it works. I had to learn. Only I didn't have anyone to teach me because the doctors that, the people that raised me, they were scared of me. So they kept their distance. And I had to figure it all out by myself. See? Well, you don't have to go through any of that. I'll teach you. Ryan asks, really? Homelander nods and says, I love you. Ryan looks at him, then leans over and cuddles up to Homelander. Homelander gives him a hug. Homelander looks at Stormfront. She has a look of pride on her face.
I'm kind of shocked that he was able to do that. He actually did what a parent is supposed to do.
Yeah, he did pretty good.
But even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, so he's at least right here. I'm glad he's at least doing something right with that kid. But that did kind of touch me a little bit. Him opening up, and I believe that situation. I caught a glimpse. I didn't dig deep in the X-ray, Amazon X-ray feature that did make reference to this incident, and I think it might have also happened in the comics. So I think this is actually a truthful reveal. I don't think this is a made-up story.
You're referring to him flying as a child?
Flying off and crying, and found crying 80 miles up the road. That seems to be a genuine event.
Okay.
That has happened, and not a fabricated thing like the father, mother, or any, or the baseball, playing ball with my dad in the backyard kind of thing. It's none of that stuff. This feels honest. It felt very honest. It seems honest.
Yep. Back in the Haitian King's basement, Butcher has returned. Becca is nervously awaiting his return. She asks, hey, did you find anything? Butcher says they got him in a cabin up in Rochester. Becca asks, what? Huey walks up and tells Butcher how great Becca is. He says, we talked earlier, and she's really great. You're great. Butcher says, all right, easy, Tiger. How'd you get on? I guess you got all? Huey says, no witnesses, but we definitely found all. I'm not sure I'm using that term properly, but here.
He shoots and he scores. Petit Huey.
MM hands Butcher the folder that A-Train gave them. Butcher looks at it and says, me, this is a jackpot. Well done, you two. This'll do nicely. He throws the folder down on the table and says, all right, listen up, you lot. Getting the kid back, it ain't your fight, and I ain't gonna ask you to come along. MM says, lick my big black balls, Butcher. Sorry, Becca. You done asked us to lie, spy, do all kinds of up for you. Now we finally get a chance to do something good, and you think we're gonna take a pass on that?
I love him, man. So good. Such a great response.
I didn't think of this earlier. I like the response, but it's the South Park movie. Cartman?
Where?
When Cartman's like, why don't you suck my balls, Mr. Garrison? And then Mr. Garrison's like, what'd you just say? And then he gets out the megaphone and he says,
I'm sorry. How would you like? Oh, yes, I love that. Thank you. That's great.
Oh, man.
I didn't even think of that. That is too good. Oh, my South Park reference is coming up in a second. So.
Huey says, we're in. Frenchie puts an arm over Huey's shoulders and says, of course we're in. Butcher looks at Kamiko and she nods. Butcher says, all right, let's get a shift on. We get a montage of them packing up for the mission.
All right. This is what I'm referring to. Is that You know exactly which one I'm talking about, though. We're going to need a montage. We're going to need a
Yes.
sports training montage from South Park.
That was when Kyle was the coach, right, of the baseball team?
No, that's the one. It's the snow skiing one. It was the Aspen. It's where the timeshare, the parents are stuck in the timeshare, and the kids are. It's like he's challenged. The guy. It's like an adult, the adult teenager or the 21-year-old, kind of like college age kid is challenging Stan Darsh to
Oh, yeah. I remember
to the
that.
big race.
Wasn't there another montage song when Stan was the coach of the baseball team?
I'm sure there was.
Okay.
There's always a good montage. There's a need for a good montage because if you need something to go from bad to good in a short time, you got to show a montage, brother.
Yeah. We don't have South Park on the list of shows to cover.
Dude, we need to. That's worth covering.
Get banned from the internet for covering this.
It's nothing but trigger warning. It's all trigger warnings.
Moving on. Huey and Starlight send off the info about Stormfront to the media. Butcher walks up to Becca. She's preparing for the mission as well. She says, "What? You remember the range at Fort Bragg? I was a better shot than you." Butcher says, "Well, you had a bloody good teacher, didn't you?" Now, Billy, in your experience, have the women you know been better shots than men? Generally, they do really well, don't they?
Yeah, the only person I have shot with was my late wife. Yes, she was with a handgun a naturally good shot. Just instantly, I was good because I used to shoot quite a bit, but she was still better out of the box than me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Like I haven't done like a lot of shooting, but every time I go play laser tag, the girls always do better. I don't know why.
I wonder if it's built into their genes, to part of their protection thing.
I don't know. I think they take less. The ones that, I mean, this is anecdotal, so it's not like a wide sample set, right? It's just a couple people that but they tended to take less shots. So I don't know if they were just aiming more, and the boys are like, like I don't know. We're just like gung ho.
Right.
Maybe I'm just not that tactical. I don't know.
I was one that, I'm not a bad shot, but it's like I don't just zip them out real quick either. I shoot, and but it's for ladies. I believe it comes more natural to point the finger, that's what you got to imagine you're doing basically with your gun. It's where you would point your fingers where you were pointing your gun, and apparently they can visualize that a lot better. I mean, it's all those mom finger pointing things they do to us. I don't know.
Take it easy, bro. I don't want to get.
I'm not Peyton.
Take it easy.
I have my mother, dude. I told you she's a little lady. She, I'm still scared of that woman, rightfully so. And this is respect. This is not, I still have respect and fear out of that woman. So.
Becca smiles and says, "I like your friends, especially Huey. He's good for you." Butcher says, "Look, Becca, you ain't coming with us." She gets upset and says, "Bull. Ryan doesn't know you. He'll never come to you." Butcher says, "It's too dangerous, and I ain't gonna lose you again." Becca says, "He's my son, and I'm coming." Butcher begrudgingly accepts and turns to walk away. Becca grabs his arm. She says, "I need you to promise me something. I need you to promise me that you will save him no matter what, and you will get him back to me." Butcher says, "Yeah, of course." Becca says, "You realize this isn't just about me, right? Like, he can't grow up like Homelander. You have to think of all the people out there that he would swear to me then. You swear to me on your brother's soul." Butcher says, "I swear to you. I swear to you on Lenny's soul." She accepts this. She says, okay. She gives him a hug. He says, "All right." He walks away and pulls his phone out of his pocket. He looks at the screen, then he gets a look on his face. Did he just lie to her?
I think so.
Yeah, I was having trouble figuring out what was going on right here.
Yeah, I think he lied to her, and on top of that, it's like it bothered him instantly that he did so.
Okay,
it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Kimiko sets an origami figure down on a shelf next to the one that Kenji made. Frenchie is standing in the doorway to her room. He says, "I could use your help loading the car." She begins signing, "What if it happens again? When I see Stormfront? What if I freeze?" Frenchie is trying to follow along. He apologizes since he's still learning. He walks in and kneels down next to her, then says, "Look, if there's one thing I know, it's that you can take care of yourself. So when the time comes, You'll know what to do. She smiles. He says, let's go.
He's learned a lot in the short time how to communicate with her. That's made a big difference.
Yes. I was surprised with how much he's picked up, actually.
Yeah, it's short. It's, but then again, some people have that talent, and he's some people, especially he's foreign and coming here to America. And ours is the hardest language, I believe. English, especially American English, can be the hardest language to learn. I think if he can do that, some people just have knacks for learning languages.
Is it harder than Chinese?
I'm not sure if it's harder than. I always kind of had the assumption that it was because we have so many double and triple words that sound and and mean different things like that. I don't know if I know that Chinese can be hard because we don't base our life on I can't understand a picture like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like other languages I can kind of understand that there's an alphabet that I can kind of wrap my head around. I feel.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of blown away by like the Cyrillic, the Russian stuff as well too, because it looks like that's one that confuses me because some of that stuff looks English.
Yeah.
And then you see those other characters, you're like, huh, I'm really curious what that is,
Yeah.
So Chinese may be harder. I don't know. I have no idea which is harder.
Okay. Back to Homelander and Ryan. Homelander is encouraging Ryan not to give up. He's intently staring at a figure of the deep placed on the railing of the porch outside. Ryan concentrates for a while and appears to be struggling. He is unable to manifest any heat vision. Homelander is trying to find a way to help Ryan manifest his powers. He says, sometimes it helps to imagine someone you hate, okay? So try that. Ryan says, but at home, when I say hate, I have to put a quarter in the swear jar. Homelander says, well, there's no swear jar here, so you can hate away. He chuckles. Ryan says, but I don't really hate anyone. Stormfront steps in and says, oh, well, that's very sweet, Ryan, but it's not something we can afford. We're under attack. Ryan says, we are? Stormfront nods and says, bad guys want to hurt us just because of what we look like. They want to wipe us from this earth just because the color of our skin. Ryan says, really? Stormfront says, it's called white genocide. When Homelander hears this, he gets a look like he doesn't like the tone of this conversation.
What does that say to you if the craziest Superman on the planet thinks this is too far?
The way I was thinking of this is, you remember we were talking about before people get married, they should have conversations about things that are important to them.
Yes.
And
yes.
This is one of those things that likely would be a good conversation point to know about somebody.
Are you pro-white supremacy or anti-white supremacy? That's a pretty big thing before marriage.
Yeah, this just really struck me as he didn't like hearing that.
No, it's like, you don't want to see, it's like, I guess you don't want to see the woman that you like on a Wednesday night with her grand wizard outfit on. Wait, isn't this Wednesday night? It's the meeting,
Yeah.
He's ready. He's ready for church. She's meeting the Klan. So,
yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. I think this is the first time he's seen her go this overtly down this rabbit hole, right?
Just straight programming.
Mm-hmm.
Straight programming.
Stormfront continues, and we're going to need people like you to protect our kind. Homelander says, all right. So let's try again. Go for it. Imagine Stormfront's phone rings. Then she suddenly exclaims, you got to be kidding me. Homelander asks, what? When she doesn't answer, he asks, what? Again. So another point on this attack against whiteness, by the nature of humans breeding and the way the world is nowadays with people traveling all over the place, white men are one of the most common races to be getting with women of other races.
Yeah.
So eventually we're all going to be mixed to some degree. We already are.
We've talked about. I say this, not always, but there's a couple of science fiction writers I've read in the past. I think it was Paul Anderson on one of his where he talks about the fact that basically all the Earth is this one homogenized kind of Asiatic brown people.
Yeah,
because that would be because that is the majority of the humans are Asians.
Mm-hmm.
With the Chinese and the Indians right next door to each other.
Yeah.
Those two alone. I mean, so they've got us in population. So yeah, there is, and of course we talk about the numbers of peoples that it take, that goes into making each one of us is, when you look at it, it's like when you go to what, 5 great great grandparents kind of deal, it's like 256 people or something like that going to making you. So at this part, I'm like, how many billions of people did it take to make us?
Right.
So we all are kind of a big mixing ground anyhow.
But if you're crazy, theoretically, you could interpret that as an attack. Like
Yeah, sure.
if you're trying to say, think of it like dog breeding, right? Where you're trying to like
Yeah.
keep certain aspects of the genetics the same,
Mhm.
right? But I mean, what's the weakness of doing that? They get all these crazy like genetic problems, right?
Well,
Like
yeah, I was going to say the biggest problem that always arises in anything like that is mutations, and mutations are never. It's not like X-Men. Mutation is never beneficial. Mutation is always detrimental and usually leads to death. So, because that's what cancer is, isn't it? Mutation.
Well, I think it is, but it's in a different way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, like your cells have these things called telomeres in them, and basically they lose their length every time a cell divides. It gets to a point where the cell won't divide anymore. Now, now I'm not I'm not an expert on this. Is my understanding of it, so I might be wrong. But the mutation that happens with a cell that's metastatic, well, is that the right word? A cancerous cell. The mutation is like it can continue to divide past the point that it would normally stop.
Okay. So that's a different kind than altogether. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's the same cell. It's just the limitation on it dividing has been removed from it through mutation.
Okay.
So it can just continue to replicate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like a built-in like check valve that prevents that from happening normally.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
I think that's the way it works. Caveat.
Right.
If I remember correctly. Someone will correct me.
I'm sure.
Frenchie and Kamiko are in the woods. They are unboxing a large number of Vought Bluetooth speakers. Kamiko signs, "Are you sure this will work?" Frenchie says, "Don't worry, it will work. This is nothing compared to the raves I used to set up in Algiers." Kamiko signs, "Do you dance?" Frenchie says, "Of course I dance. What is the point of life without dancing?" It's really cool that they're able to communicate with each other now, having conversations.
Oh, I've been waiting for it. I love it.
Yeah.
I know it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Suddenly they hear what sounds like rolling thunder and Stormfront flies overhead. Frenchie transmits, "She's on the move," into a walkie-talkie. The rest of the boys are hiding in a metal building in a field. Butcher sees Stormfront fly over and confirms to Frenchie that he sees her. He tells Frenchie they need to get moving and asks if Frenchie is close. Frenchie says, "Un moment, mon ami." Inside one of the cars, Huey says, "Holy shit, it just broke." He shows his phone to MM and Starlight. It is playing an NNC breaking news segment. The title reads, "Stormfront Nazi pictures leaked." Below that, it reads, "NYPD credible lead ties Stormfront to Jeffrey Epstein death." What the heck is that doing in here?
I know it. I laughed about that when I was going through your notes. I was like, oh my word, I didn't see that. That's too funny.
Yeah.
Now she's going to be she'll be to blame for everything bad now.
Yeah. There's a picture of Stormfront sitting at a table with Hitler on the top right corner of that broadcast. The anchor is saying, "Stunning news coming out of Vought Tower in New York City concerning Stormfront and alleged Nazi ties. Stormfront may be 100 years old. What's even more incredible, we have authenticated photos showing Stormfront with Nazi high command, including Goebbels and Goring. Based on the photos, it is now believed that she was the wife of Frederick Vought, who was, of course, the founder of Vought International. Already an intense international outcry has emerged under..." We don't hear the rest of it.
Well, and for me, a scary thought about the soups, and especially the people like Homelander and Maeve, or even Annie, who's tough enough to take a 50 caliber bullet, is that they'd be really long lived. At least the way like I said, the idea, why Superman would live so long was because he is such a dense body. I mean, if your body is granite, it's stronger than granite, actually. What does that age? How does it age? Slowly. So these people, Stormfront, their dream, of course, if they're Nazis, was the 1,000-year Reich. So it starts looking like it could be happening. Thinking about these people.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
There you go. That's a scary one for me.
We see Stormfront storming through the Vought Tower as the anchor is speaking in the background. All the Vought staff are staring at her. She passes Maeve in the hallway and walks into the command room for the 7. We hear the noise of a channel changing, and another man is speaking now. This looks like a clip from TikTok being played on LOL TV. He says, I can't believe I actually have to say this day and age, but Nazis are bad. Another channel change, and the memes are coming. There's an animation of Stormfront goose stepping in front of the Nazi army. The Vought Tower is in the background with Nazi flags hanging off of it. The subtitle says, Nazi Stormfront, Hitler's star. Run her over with a car. And it's like a sing-along nursery rhyme. When the word car comes up in the song, a car runs her over, causing a most gruesome death. Huey says, it's catchy.
It is. I agree.
Frenchie and Kamiko arrive running. Frenchie gets out a laptop. He syncs up all the Bluetooth speakers with the laptop. Inside the cabin, Homelander and Ryan are watching NNC. The anchor is saying, but the question now is how can we possibly let Vought release Compound V in light of this unprecedented malfeasance? The title on the screen reads, Stormfront revealed as Nazi. Below that, it says, Vought to issue statement regarding Stormfront past. There's a picture of Stormfront holding out a microphone, her arm extended as if in a Nazi salute. Now, for me, that's reaching a bit. If anything, she wanted to hide her past because it complicates her agenda. Revealing it would complicate what she's trying to do, you know? So what's your take? Do you think she was performing secret salutes? Or
no,
yeah.
I think that woman is too smart for that, dude.
Yeah. So this is typical. The news is trying to,
yeah, they just tried to jazz it up.
To be fair, I mean, they do have other pictures they could use of her,
Absolutely.
actually with Nazis instead of potentially a fake salute or something.
Right.
Ryan asks, what's malfeasance? The anchor says, a Nazi in 7 Tower? Was she part of the attack? We don't hear the rest of that statement. Homelander says, all of a sudden, a really obnoxious noise comes on, and both Homelander and Ryan cover their ears in pain. Ryan asks, what's happening? Homelander says, I don't know. Stay here. And it was hurting my ears, too, since I have headphones on. Yeah, it's bad.
It's an annoying sound, yeah.
Homelander opens the door and steps outside. When he does, the noise gets louder. Homelander takes off and is flying to the source of the noise. As soon as Homelander passes the structure the boys are hiding in, signals Butcher to move. Butcher and Becca take off in their car. They pull up to the cabin and find Ryan cowering next to the stairs. Becca runs up to him and is calling his name. He finally sees her and is surprised and relieved at the same time. She puts some ear protection over his ears to help prevent him from going crazy from that noise. They hug and Ryan says, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean anything I said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any of it. Becca is crying and says, it's okay. Butcher gruffly tells them, we've got to go. Becca tells Ryan, I love you so much. You're okay. We're going to go, okay? Come on. Ryan sees Butcher and asks, who's that? Becca tells Ryan, that's my husband. It's all right. Come on. I got you. She guides him to the car. Butcher looks like he's struggling with the situation.
I think this is where he's finally convinced to do the right thing. His lying to her has been working on him, I think, from the minute he said it to her. And I think this is where it kind of got to him.
You're right. Because later when we see what he does right here, that kind of provides a little insight.
Yeah, very much.
Mm-hmm. Homelander has an amazing landing in the field by the speakers. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it does.
He sees the speakers and cuts them down with his vision. Now, suspension of disbelief, it would have taken a little bit more than one slice to shut all those Bluetooth speakers off. He just did one pass through and just all of a sudden they all shut off. No.
Well, a lot of them, if they're Bluetooth syncing, if you break the sync, maybe there could be a possible shutdown.
Maybe. I would have to think that Frenchie has a more robust network setup.
Oh, so sorry. You are correct, sir. I'm so sorry. He's going to have
triple redundancy built in.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he will. Yes, he will.
Also, you ever seen a lithium-ion battery catch on fire?
No, I have not. I know that that's about killed the Samsung market there for a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. Did you ever seen anybody's vape thing catch on fire in their pocket?
No,
Okay.
no.
You should look up some videos of lithium ion batteries catching on fire.
Okay,
Yeah, because
okay.
his heat vision, when it sliced through, there should have been some
Oh,
significant
some.
burning going on
Okay, okay.
afterwards. Yeah.
Cool.
After he cuts them down, he inspects the speakers and sees they are Vought branded speakers. He looks around and says, "What the?" Butcher pulls back up to the boys' hiding spot. Frenchie says something in French. says, "What the hell are they doing back here? Butcher, this wasn't the plan. What's going on?" Butcher walks up to and says, "Take my car, get them both to Mallory, get them both safe." is shaking his head. He says, "No, no, that's not part of the plan." Butcher tells him, "The plan just changed. You're the only one I trust with them." Becca has now gotten out of the vehicle. She says, "Hey, what's happening?" She sees Butcher has handed his weapon to and she says, "No." Butcher says, "MM's going to take you to a woman with the CIA." Becca says, "What? No, you have to come with us." Butcher says, "I cut a deal with Stan Edgar." Again, Becca asks, "What?" Butcher says, "I cut a deal that when I got Ryan, that I would call Vought. They were going to come and take him away and that you'd never see him again." Again, Becca asks, "What?" Butcher says, "But me, I couldn't do it." Back at the cabin, we see some armed SWAT looking men entering the cabin where Butcher's phone is laying on the table. They secure the building and are calling out to Butcher. We see the screen on the phone. It has an open line with the at Vought. One of the armed men picks it up. We hear Homelander land outside. Homelander comes in and says, "Did I hear you say Butcher? What's going on?" The dispatcher on the radio is asking, "Do you have the boy?" Homelander hears this and turns around and closes the front door.
Uh-oh.
As
Like
soon as that
a
happened, man, those guys should have been crapping their pants.
Oh, I think they were. I was.
Yep. He walks back into the room and looks at the man that was calling out for Butcher. He asks, "Where's my son?" The man just stares at Homelander without responding. Homelander activates his heat vision, splitting the man in half vertically. The other men all turn their weapons on Homelander. Homelander yells, "Where is my son?"
Oh, that's
Becca is telling Butcher, I'm not leaving here without you. I don't care." Butcher says, "I was going to sell you out. I well might do it again." Becca is crying. She says, "You didn't though. You didn't and you won't." Butcher says, "You can't have a like me around that kid. I don't want to pass my on to him." Becca says, "Don't say that. You have to come with us." Butcher says, "You raise him right. You raise him right, and I'll make sure they never find you." Becca is still begging him to come. He says, "Becca, we are out of time. Please, you got to let me do this. You got to let me do this one thing." She slowly accepts. She gives him a kiss goodbye, then gets back in the car and then drives them away. Becca is looking back at Butcher when Stormfront suddenly lands in front of the car. The shot is in slow motion. It's really well done, and the
yes.
sound is great. Stormfront uses her powers to lift the vehicle and launch it in the air, throwing it and making it roll several times.
Yeah, and like it is impressive looking, dude. That looks really horrific.
Yeah, really launches that thing. Butcher begins running to the resting place of the vehicle. Stormfront sees Starlight and says, "There you are, you slippery little b****. I'm assuming it's you who sent all those lies to the press." Starlight says, "They're not lies." Stormfront says, "The pictures are clearly deepfakes and you're a lying slut." What's up with the name calling? The stuff that she's calling her.
I know it's like her feelings are hurt, and it's all her hard work is for naught. But how am I reading into this? How long has she been? Has she been organizing this for a long time? But then again, we've already kind of touched on some of this, where the fact that talking about Edgar, knows what he's working with. But I'm curious. What is her? Does she? Maybe she doesn't have the controlling interest on the board.
When you say she doesn't have a controlling interest on the board, what do you mean?
Well, maybe she, like, I've thought she's been calling the shots, but like you pointed out, some of the stuff about Edgar, shows that he's aware. It almost sounds like like he's pulling the shot, or you calling it. So I was asking, am I reading into that? That I was thinking that Stormfront had a lot more going on.
Me too.
Might be having, and so I'm curious. I mean, we'll see. We'll see it play out here shortly. So
yeah. Butcher has arrived at the vehicle and rips Becca's door open. He helps her out of the vehicle. MM is also getting out. Stormfront says, "People love what I have to say." Kamiko is approaching Stormfront with death in her eyes. Frenchie is right behind her. Stormfront continues, "They believe in it. They just don't like the word see. That's all."
And she's actually admitting that she's a here. So the petulant name calling is kind of, is silly compared to this because she just admitted it.
Yeah, in a roundabout
You
way,
know,
right?
yeah, very roundabout way, but
Yeah.
yes, it is there.
Butcher is asking Becca if she's all right. All Becca can say is, "Ryan, Ryan, Ryan." Ryan is coughing. Butcher pulls him out of the vehicle. MM catches Butcher's eye. He says, "Go. We'll hold her off." Butcher nods and runs in the opposite direction with Becca and Ryan. MM cocks his shotgun and goes to support his team. Starlight asks Stormfront, "What about the truth?" Stormfront asks, "What truth? What is the truth?" All of a sudden, Kamiko starts laughing. Everyone's confused. Stormfront turns to her and asks, "What are you laughing at?" Kamiko signs something to Frenchie. Frenchie says, "She says the truth is she's going to stick her boot up your Nazi kitty." Suddenly, there's a flurry of action. Stormfront begins to activate her powers. Starlight beats her to it. Kamiko runs in and begins beating on Stormfront, who is knocked to the ground. Stormfront manages to blast Kamiko off of her. Starlight runs up and kicks Stormfront in the face, flipping her over backwards. Stormfront stands up and shocks Starlight, knocking her back over 50 feet. Huey is concerned for Starlight, but Frenchie yells, "Come on. The RPG. It's in the car. It's our only chance."
What good is a role playing game going to do at a time like this?
Okay.
Continue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the bad joke.
Stormfront begins arcing plasma through the building over the vehicles. It arcs into the vehicle with the RPGs and blows them up. This, in turn, blows up the whole structure. Kamiko gets a solid flurry of punches in and is in the process of trying to break Stormfront's neck. Stormfront is able to shock Kamiko, then she gets control of the situation and breaks her neck, dropping her body to the ground. Frenchie and the boys immediately open fire. The bullets aren't doing anything to Stormfront. She turns and shocks all the boys, knocking them to the ground. Starlight gets up and her eyes are glowing. She blasts Stormfront, who simply shrugs it off. Stormfront retaliates, shocking Starlight and knocking her down again. Stormfront is menacingly walking up to the boys when we suddenly hear, "Hey, Kraut!" Maeve shows up and begins pummeling Stormfront. Now, we wanted to see this comparison of strength between these two.
We did, and I think Stormfront is really strong, but I think she must be stronger than Maeve a little bit because of the fact it takes all three of these ladies. They get, I love this. I love this fight with these ladies, by the way, but it takes all of them to drive her, to really give her a whooping. So,
yeah. Kamiko has healed the broken neck and gets up. Starlight also gets up. We see what effectively amounts to Stormfront getting jumped by the other three ladies. They have her on the ground and are kicking her and beating on her. It's a nice little montage. The song "Boys Wanna Be Her" by Peaches is playing. Starlight yells, "Eat my you Nazi." Again, we hear "Die you." The boys are watching, all three with their mouths hanging open. Frenchie says, "Girls do get it done." Truly, I was waiting for this. I was actually going to make a "Girls Get It Done" reference on my own, but then they did it in the show.
I was going to say I was hoping for that after all that buildup, over that uncomfortable "Girls Get It Done" photo shoots and all those operas. I love seeing that. That's great. Frenchie, I love that guy.
Stormfront launches herself into the air and takes off. The girls are all looking at each other. Then Starlight sees Huey and runs up to him, giving him a hug and asking if he's okay. He tells her he is. Homelander walks out of the cabin covered in gore. He must have taken those guys apart in there to get that covered in gore.
Well, the bad thing is, and what's so scary is like that when you see how quick that poor fella gets sliced in half, it takes less than 1 second for that guy to be in two pieces on the ground. And those other guys, like I say, he likes to slice sideways. We've seen that before. So, he's hitting tons of arteries. And there's going to be, that stuff's sprayed all over. And he may be doing a Wookiee on them and pulling pieces off of them with his hands. Who knows?
He takes a deep breath and moves to chase after Butcher. Butcher, Becca, and Ryan are running through the woods. Stormfront lands in front of them. She looks really rough. She says, "Come here, Ryan." Butcher moves to stand between Stormfront and Ryan. He says, "Not on your life." Stormfront shocks Butcher and throws him against a tree. She says, "You're not like her, Ryan. You belong with us." Becca moves Ryan behind her and says, "Stay the away from my son." Stormfront moves in towards Ryan. Becca steps forward and takes that knife that I was mocking earlier and stabs Stormfront in the left eye with it. Stormfront screams, then pulls it out. Blood begins pouring out of the eye. Stormfront throws the knife down, grabs Becca by the throat, and slams her against a tree, saying, "You."
Yeah, we knew that knife would come back, but I just remembered that part. It's one of those things that I really remembered from it was this conclusion. Almost is about the only thing I really remember from this season because this ending is such a great combat. I love all these fights and stuff. It's nasty.
Ryan is crying and saying, "Stop, please, stop it. Stop, you're hurting her. Just let her." Butcher gets up, pulls a handgun, and begins shooting Stormfront in the back. The shots do nothing. Becca is being choked by Stormfront. Ryan is still yelling in the background. Butcher picks up a crowbar and yells, "Let her go." He hits Stormfront in the back. It does nothing. Stormfront tells Becca, "Look at me. I like to see the light go out." I don't like it when she says that. It's creepy.
No,
Yeah.
she's creepy.
Yeah. Butcher is
She's
really
evil.
beating on Stormfront, still to no effect. Suddenly, Ryan's eyes begin to glow. The entire screen goes white. Butcher wakes up. The leaves around him are smoking. Stormfront is laying on the ground, and she is an absolute mess. Both of her legs are gone below the knee. One of her hands is missing. Half of her face is scorched off. She's speaking German. It's unintelligible.
Yeah.
Ryan is crying and saying, I'm sorry, Mom." Becca is leaning against a tree, holding a hand to her neck. Blood is coming out from under her hand. Badly.
Yes.
Butcher runs to her and puts his hand over the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. He yells for someone to help them. Becca looks at him and tells him it's not his fault. It's not his fault. You make sure he knows that. He's good. He's good. You promise me you'll keep him safe. Butcher is crying. He nods. Becca nods off. Butcher puts his forehead to hers and begins crying. He kisses her on the forehead. Ryan is in the background repeating, "I'm sorry," over and over. Butcher looks over at him, then sees the crowbar on the ground next to him. We can see the rage in his eyes as he picks it up. As he begins walking towards Ryan, he hears Homelander arrive. Homelander slowly lands on the ground. He's still covered in blood. He sees Stormfront. She's still speaking German. He kneels next to her, then says, "Ryan, did you do this?" Ryan says, "I didn't mean to." Homelander thinks for a moment, then says, "Let's go. Come here." He holds his hand out to Ryan and says, "Come." Ryan begins moving towards Butcher. Homelander says, Ryan, come here." Ryan is now standing behind Butcher. Butcher says, "No." Homelander begins laughing hysterically. He says, "He's mine. What, are you going to blow yourself up to save the little who murdered your wife?" Butcher says, "I promised." Homelander says, "Have it your way," and begins aggressively walking towards Butcher. We hear Maeve say, "Stop." Homelander stops and turns to face her. He says, "What are you doing here?" Maeve says, "You're going to let them go." Homelander says, "And if I don't?" Maeve holds up the video footage from the hijacked airplane. It's playing on a phone. She repeats, "Let them go." She then says, "You're going to stop hunting Starlight. You're going to leave me and Elena alone, or I release this." Homelander says, "If you do that, I'll destroy everything and everyone." What a threat that is.
Absolutely a horrific threat.
Yeah.
Because he'll make do on it. He'll make good on it.
Oh, yeah. He could do some serious damage.
Oh, yeah.
Maeve says, "Great, as long as everyone sees what a monster you are. As long as no one ever loves you again." We begin to hear a crowd chanting, "Homelander! Homelander!" It goes on for a while. Homelander turns back to Butcher and cries softly for a moment. Butcher turns and picks up Ryan, then walks past Homelander. Now, did we ever actually witness Stormfront's death?
No, and it will cover that here in a second. He
Okay.
mentions that they've got her in a holding facility.
Okay. I don't know why I thought she died.
She may come back to haunt us at some point in the future if this show keeps going.
Mr. Edgar is holding a press conference. Homelander, Maeve, Starlight, and Ashley are joining him on the stage. Of note, Starlight is in the family-friendly outfit.
Nice.
Mr. Edgar says, "We believe Stormfront was the sole perpetrator of the attack on Washington. In the light of Stormfront's atrocities, the release of Compound V has been placed on indefinite hold." Mr. Edgar turns and calls Homelander up to the podium. The reporters are calling out to Mr. Edgar with follow-up questions. He ignores them. Homelander takes the podium. He says, "Thanks to the heroism of Queen Maeve and Starlight, Stormfront has been neutralized and is being held in an undisclosed location. I would personally like to apologize to Starlight, who was wrongfully accused of sabotage and conspiracy. Welcome back to the team. And I know that you and Maeve are two of the best, most loyal friends that I could ever have." That's an interesting statement. Both Maeve and Starlight are giving Homelander the most beautiful smiles. Homelander turns back to the reporters and says, "We are your heroes. We are here to serve and protect you. Stormfront's violation of that special relationship, of that trust, is unacceptable, and she will be punished. Justice will be served." The audio fades out as he is still speaking, and the camera zooms in on his eyes slowly.
I love that shot.
It's good.
It's masterful. It's scary. It's like the ending of Psycho almost. You're looking at the guy in there, and you're going, man, he's out of his mind, but he's still selling it. And you're like, wow, I love that shot. That's really scary.
Yeah, that slow zooming in shot, I've always liked that technique to raise the tension.
Yes. Yeah, me too. And especially on the eyes, because we think about the eyes a lot. Yes. It's how we perceive everything. So I mean, when you zoom in on like that, that's also I like those kind of shots.
The Deep and A-Train are watching Homelander's speech on TV. Alistair walks into the room. This looks like his office. Lots of leather-bound books on the bookshelves lining the walls. He walks in front of his desk and sits on it, turning the TV off as he does. He says, "Gentlemen, thank you for coming." The Deep says, "Always happy to see you, sir." A-Train gives the Deep some side-eye and shakes his head. Alistair says, "I'm afraid we had an incident at the archives. Someone broke in and stole PDR on Stormfront." A-Train says, PDR? Alistair says, "Private Data Reserve. No one saw the thief come or go." "Isn't that right, A-Train?" The Deep looks at A-Train in surprise and says, "That was you? Dude, I didn't know. Sir, him. I would never go behind your back." A-Train says, "Please, just let me explain." Alistair holds up a finger and says, "I think it showed initiative. Stormfront's been critical of the church for a long time, and Vought needs to take a firm anti-Nazi stance right now." A-Train says, "Wait, does that mean..." Alistair says, "I just spoke to Stan Edgar. You're back in." A-Train pumps his fist in excitement. He yells, "Yeah." The Deep says, "What? Yeah." A-Train gives the Deep a high five and says, "Yeah, A-Train is back, baby." He's clapping his hands in excitement. The Deep addresses Alistair and says, "I'm back too, right? Right? I'm anti-Nazi." This reminds me, have you seen the meme from Attack of the Clones? It's Anakin and Padme sitting in a field. It's a 4-box meme. Have you seen this?
I think I have seen them. I don't know. I don't remember anyone specifically, but I think I know what you're talking about.
So on the left side, you got 2 boxes of Anakin vertically, and on the right is 2 boxes of Padme.
Okay.
And Anakin will say something, and then Padme will ask a question, and then Anakin won't respond, and then Padme asks the question again more seriously, and like the facial expressions perfectly line up with this. So like when the Deep is asking, "I'm back too, right?" And I imagine, like, Alistair's not giving him the response. And then he's like, "Right?" Still not getting a response.
That's great.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Alistair says, I'm sorry, Deep, but they only had one slot. One hero's redemption, two is weakness.
Ouch.
That's straight from Stan Edgar, that
That's
line.
straight Stan Agri, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. The Deep asks, so they took him? A-Train says, yes, they did. Well, peace out. Ha. We'll see how happy he is when he sees where that paycheck is going now.
Well, maybe he'll at least be able to get out. Maybe that'll be his redemption story arc, is getting out of debt.
I mean, if he was in debt and then they're taking like half of his pay now to go to the church.
Right. Well, I don't know if he signed up all the way on the church stuff, but
okay.
he is going. But he's going to get a kickback though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's still going to be a big chunk of it. At least it isn't as bad as the Deep.
Yeah, we'll get into that. The Deep looks like someone kicked his puppy. Alistair says, you have to be patient, Deep. We'll get you into a few more courses, up to level 7. The Deep stands up and yells, no, I don't want to pay for any more courses. Alistair says, Deep, please calm down. The Deep says, I signed over my bank account to you. I filled out all those children's workbooks. I married some weirdo who gives terrible BJs. I did everything you asked. And when I found out that we're all just space spores, I didn't laugh. I did everything you asked because you said you'd get me back in the 7. You promised. When he says the thing about space spores, he makes the jerking off motion and throws it in Alistair's direction. And it's definitely not a smart move to sign over his bank account to them. To your point about him being an idiot.
Yeah, and then to make this motion to the guy you just signed your stuff over to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He hit the comic relief for nothing.
Yeah.
So here's hoping to a successful rehab of and to maybe someday in the distant future becoming a real future super threat. Oh, sorry, super terrorist, super villain.
Super villain, yeah.
Super villain, sorry.
Alistair says, I'm sorry, Deep, but you're acting like a toxic personality. I think you should leave. The Deep looks at him in shock and realization that he is being railroaded like Eagle. He scoffs and begins to leave the room. He turns around and says, Fruska. Then he walks out. Alistair's expression on his face is funny. It's hard to describe. I guess he's surprised a little bit, shocked that he doesn't like Fresca.
Right. I think that's what it is. It's the Fresca. It's like, how can you not like Fresca? I mean,
Huey is walking in the park. He comes upon a bench where Starlight is waiting for him. He says, look at you. He points to the cross necklace she's wearing. She touches it and says, I know. But if Billy Butcher can do the right thing, then there's got to be some kind of higher power, you know?
Right.
Huey asks, are you sure it's safe for you to go back into the tower? She says, no. No, I'm not. But if you jump ship and you let the hole steer, then you're part of the problem. And someone taught me something about hanging in there. She laughs.
I like that analogy about being able to steer it from the inside, and not steering or not helping to steer is becoming part of the problem. I kind of like that.
Is there an analogy with politics today?
I'm sure there is. I think there would, yeah. I think there could very well be an analogy between that. I don't know what it is necessarily, but
the concept is everybody wants to complain about politicians, but nobody wants to jump in the ring and try to make a change themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and the worst, if you really want to change the big deal is you have to get involved you have to start at a local level. You don't necessarily have to run for any offices, I don't think, but you know, if you want to make changes, try and affect your place you live in elections, I think. And I'm real bad about ignoring that kind of local stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to keep track of everything, man.
I know it. There's so much.
Yeah. Starlight looks over at him, then leans over and kisses him. He smiles and says, I've been thinking about that lately, the hanging in there. And I think maybe I am too clingy. Starlight says, no, you're not. Huey clarifies, sticking with people just because I'm terrified of losing them, I can't do that anymore. I think it's time I go off, stand on my own 2 feet for once. Starlight takes a breath and says, right. Yeah, no worries. We'll just be friends then. Huey jumps and says, oh, God, no. I'm still gonna cling onto you. I'm not crazy. She's relieved. They kiss again. She asks, "So if you weren't talking about me, who were you talking about?"
I love it. I love
So
it.
is he talking about Butcher?
I think he's talking about the group, the boys.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's talking about all of it.
Okay.
I mean, not an extent of leaving town or anything, just trying something new. I mean, this guy's gone through a big journey from being a tech guy at a electronics store to being this guy. He's gone
Right.
through a big journey in these 2 seasons.
Yes, he has. We are taken to Butcher and Ryan. They're sitting next to a stream. Ryan says, "I'm scared." Butcher reaches into his jacket and pulls off his necklace. He says, "This here belonged to your mum," and shows Ryan a pendant. He continues, "This is St. Christopher. She gave it to me a long time ago and told me it would keep me safe, and it has, mostly." He then puts the necklace over Ryan's head. He says, "Now your mum is going to keep you safe." Ryan is clutching the pendant in his hand. We hear a car door close. Mallory has arrived. Butcher gets up and says, "Come on." He walks Ryan over to one of the vehicles and says, "Now, remember what I told you." Ryan says, "Don't be a." Butcher smiles, nods, and holds his hand out. Ryan takes his hand and shakes it. He gets in the vehicle and looks back at Butcher. Mallory says, "William, I'm so sorry." Butcher says, "Vought's going to want him back." Mallory says, "Let me handle Vaught." "You think he'll turn into his father?" Butcher says, "Becca didn't think so." Mallory shakes her head and says, "I pray she's right. All the charges against you and the boys have been dropped, even for the crimes you did commit. You're a free man. And the White House is opening an office of soup affairs. Victoria Newman is the new czar. She's sneaking me some off-the-books funding for a team that can keep tabs on the soups, if you're interested."
And in the beginning of in the comic book series, this is already in play. This bureau, I believe.
You said Rayner was involved in that?
Yes, it was, and he was still involved with her physically, but she was married and had kids. But yeah, so that showed that side of that. So, but it was that was still part of an ongoing deal. She got them in the comics. She got them the office in that building we talked about. I can't remember the name of that office, in that triangular
the
looking
triangle
building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So she did get on one, but because he wasn't specific, she got the really like a one that is missing everything. Like someone has come in there and demoed the whole floor and didn't put anything back in. They may have sockets,
right?
For electricity, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Butcher begins to walk away without answering. God Only Knows by the Beach Boys starts playing. Now, I have to tell you a story about the Beach Boys.
Okay.
When I first started working at Fry's in Houston, so this was before you and I worked together by about 5 years.
Okay.
I started out just as I guess I was a salesman initially.
Okay.
And they had me doing a schematic. And a schematic is like the merchandising team would tell us where to put the products on the shelves. So we had to set the shelves up and then put this tape and the prices and everything. So I was working on a schematic all day because it was a mess. It was for computer speakers. And it was kind of it was in the computer department in a corner of the store that was pretty quiet, not a lot of traffic. And there was a speaker right there. And the store manager had a Beach Boys CD playing on repeat for 8 hours straight.
Oh my word.
And it was like 40 minutes long.
Oh my goodness.
I hate the Beach Boys. I cannot stand it.
It's okay. I used to love them as a kid because my dad loved them, but my dad would beat them into the ground about the same way for a while there when I was about 18, 19. And I was like, oh my goodness, it just killed me. And I was like, I lost my love of them back then.
Yeah. And then, so this is the day that it really broke me. But then I mean, this was weeks it was on all day, every day.
Oh, hey, nothing is as bad as the Michael Jackson death. I was working in returns and they showed that video of his concert. That was, remember we were demoing, were you there when we were demoing the Sony 4K TV in the front by the returns department?
Because I remember they had the Adele concerts on there too.
The Michael Jackson was not, I mean, it was nonstop for 8 hours a day. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like I'd get or Adele. I'm like, oh, I just want to just gouge my eardrums out at the end of the, and it's killing me, dude.
I always think of the dude talking about the Eagles.
Yes, not the. Come on, man, not the Eagles.
The
I
guy,
use that line a lot.
you
I
want to
love
get
it.
that out of my cab? You don't like that Eagles? Great, man.
Oh.
We see MM arriving at home. His daughter answers the door and he gets a big hug. That's good. I like to see that.
Yeah.
Kamiko is looking at the origami on her shelf. She leaves them both there, the one that Kenji did and the one that she did, and she walks out of the room. As she gets up, she signs something to Frenchie. He takes her hand and he gives her a little twirl as they leave the Haitian King's basement.
And I love that very much too.
Mm-hmm. Because they were talking about dancing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice.
Yeah.
Homelander is standing on top of a building servicing himself. He's repeating, I can do whatever I want over and over. And he just sounds desperate. He's acting crazy.
Yeah.
There is actually a pretty good shot of him with a silhouette against the backdrop of the moon.
Now, I did not love this very much.
Yeah, I know. It's just it really creepy,
it shows,
awkward.
Yeah. And it's true to character. It is very true to character, I feel. So,
yeah. Alistair is in his office. He has a Fresca in his hand.
Of course.
This guy.
I'm gonna have. You know what? Now I'm going to buy some Frescas this week. I will buy some Frescas just so I can remember a taste I've forgotten. It's been 40 plus years since I've had one. I have fond memories of it, but I'm going to buy some Frescas. I'll let you know what I'll report on the Fresca and see if
maybe it's better if it's left in your memory.
You know, that could very well be true. I may just leave that in that fond, sweet spot.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me permission to ignore that. I will do that then.
I'm just worried you'll be disappointed and that beautiful memory will be tarnished.
No, the beautiful memory will never go away because I just love my. I know. That doesn't ruin the fun time because it was either that or Dr. Pepper for that lady. Dude, that's all that woman drank.
Mm-hmm. He's on the phone. He says, "Congratulations on the appointment, Congresswoman. It's about time we had an office of soup affairs." We see Victoria on the other end of the phone. She's outside walking down the street. She says, "Well, I know it was your intel that took Stormfront down, so thank you." Alistair says, "Yeah, and that's just the start. We have enough dirt to ruin a dozen soups. Be a death blow for Stan Edgar. That is, of course, if you're up to expediting the church's tax-exempt status."
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Victoria smiles and says, "Small price to pay. Call my office. Set up a meeting." Alistair smiles and says, "You're one of the good ones, Vic." She says, "See you soon." He says, "See you," and hangs up the phone. He pops the can of Fresca, then his head explodes. Outside, we can see Victoria is standing at the fence for Alistair's house. Her eyes are white, then they turn back to normal. We get a nice shot through the blood-stained glass showing Victoria had line of sight to Alistair sitting at his desk.
I love this reveal. She's the head popper. Awesome, but I remember that this whole time, and I like that we were able to talk about it. You know, because that's really about the other only thing I kind of remember was her. I remember the violent bits. Mm-hmm. I always remember the violent bits, but that one is I like that reveal. It's really I like having a soup that's kind of in hiding like that. Mm-hmm. What side of the fence is this? Like Saruman? Is this our third party?
I'm really curious about what her motivations are. Because
I know it.
When you think, okay, so what would Vought do with a soup like this? I was trying to think, could she be a soup? No, because you don't really need a head popper. That's not something you can market as a company, right?
No.
So is she a deep plant? Or is she just working her way up and just power hungry and trying to get as high as she can, manipulating things by killing people strategically? I guess we'll have to see. This is obviously going to be a big storyline in the next season, right?
And I'm going to lean toward the latter. Mm-hmm. She seems she's a highly motivated individual,
right?
She's shown herself to be such, and so I like that she has kept this, and still nobody knows but us, the viewers. I dig that.
Yeah. Now, knowing that she was the head popper in the scene at the hearing, it
Mhm.
was really interesting watching who she was looking at as the heads were exploding,
Oh my
because
goodness.
inevitably she would be a head would explode in the direction she was looking.
Yes.
But she very prominently, when she's standing at this fence, her eyes cloud over. I did
Mhm.
not pick up on that in the courtroom, so I'm curious what the difference is.
Yeah, I'll dig back on that through the
Mm,
week and see what I find out.
yeah. But for those of you that didn't notice, like if you go watch that little clip of the hearing, just look at where she's looking. Like when her assistant is behind her, she turns around and looks at the assistant, then the assistant explodes. You know, she's looking at the guy that has the gavel, the guy that's running the hearing when his head
Mhm.
explodes. She's
Okay.
looking at, I mean, just go down the list.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing maybe is maybe the reaction time of the eyes clouding over is something relatively quicker than they were just showing us. That was so
Oh,
we
okay.
could
Maybe it was
be let in.
slow.
Maybe
Mm,
that was slow,
hmm.
because maybe it clears up and then she'd look. Maybe that's why she would kind of turn and look, so you wouldn't catch it. And it'd also be kind of hard to tell because she is herself also covered in tons of blood and brains.
Right. Okay. Victoria walks into her campaign headquarters. An assistant walks up and hands her some research she asked for and notifies her that her 2 o'clock appointment is waiting for her. She walks into her office to find Huey. Now, there are some signs all over the walls of her office. Some of
Mm,
them we've seen before, like the one about hate. I
yeah,
forget what something
the
about hate.
F.
Yeah. Yeah. Hate,
The,
right? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Another one says Citizens for Corporate Oversight.
Oh.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Corporate oversight of the government. Okay. Another says
Yeah.
resist VOT. It has a picture of Homelander and a syringe with a big circle crossed out over it. Big red circle. Another one says Newman fights for everyone. It's the number 4. Another has a picture of an old man and it says just paid off student loan.
That one is funny.
Yeah, he probably got like an English degree or something.
Right. Fashion degree.
Political science degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and we already covered that other sign. So,
Mm-hmm. She greets him, Huey, shaking his hand. She says, I don't know how to repay you for what you did. He says, I can think of a way. She says, oh? He says, you can give me a job. She asks, you serious? What about your team? Huey says, don't get me wrong. I still want to fight Vought. I want to do it the right way, not covered in quite as many guts.
I agree. And dude, let me just say how much I like the fact that he says he doesn't. It's like you can give me a job.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's some
like that.
initiative. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool, totally
Mm-hmm.
cool.
She chuckles when he says the thing about the guts. He continues,
Mm,
look, the truth is, I never totally fit in with the guys, and I think it's time I stand on my own 2 feet. She asks, they know you're here? He says, I haven't told them yet. Only the Good Die Young starts playing.
I love that one.
She asks, when can you start? As she closes the door to her office. Now, what would you just say about Only the Good Die Young?
I love that song.
Okay,
I had as a kid that album, Billy Joel's Glass Houses was one of my first albums, and I really like that album.
nice. One of my early albums was a Phil Collins tape. It wasn't an album; it
Okay,
was a tape.
well,
My
yeah,
brother used to make fun of me all the time listening to Phil
yeah.
Collins tape. But okay, so I was reading up on this song, and I did not know there was such a big backlash from the Catholic community
Oh,
about this
oh,
song.
yes, yes.
It makes sense now that I listen to the
Here's
lyrics.
some of the lyrics. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it was a real slap in the face, especially because he's a New York boy.
Mm-hmm.
And so in New York is real heavily Catholic. So that's a big slap in the face for your kind of common blue collar guy, or not to them, but it's an insult to the he's being real, but the church was really offended. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That
So
is a
yeah,
really good song.
it's a great song. It's really upbeat. I like and like I said, that's the era of Joel I like. He's
Mm-hmm.
got about 7 or 8 songs in that era that I like, and that's about it. But he is a good performer.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So.
And that is how we end the season. And what a cliffhanger that was a couple years ago
Yeah.
when this came out. But guess what? Season 3 is out. and we get to
Yeah.
talk about it next week.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so ready to start talking about this next week, dude.
It's gonna be sick.
It's yeah.
All right.
Oh, I'm really
So,
fired up.
standout moments.
Okay. I love the opening PSA is great. You know, you might as well duck and cover against this lot. You know, it's the lava thing. Duck and cover in South Park. You know, remember, lava comes, duck
Yeah,
and
and then
cover.
the lava
So,
flow comes over and
yes,
melts you.
burns them. And I love the remarks about Huey, the young man with the sweaty palms from Donna, and this guy from Maeve.
Oh, dude, Maeve's comment about splitting him like firewood. Dude, that got me so bad.
Yeah, man, I was completely unprepared for that. But I'm like, wow. It's like, and you know, and them fellas that she woke up with when Ashley came in there, them dudes look worn down, and they were some big old beefy fellas, weren't they? It's like yeah, a Huey would not survive. Yeah.
That reminds me of a character from the Malazan books.
Which one?
Hitan.
Wait. Oh, Hitan. Oh,
Yeah.
my word. You are right, dude.
Yeah. Except she couldn't get a hold of Kruppa.
Well, remember when Creepy first comes out of the tent, where he's got black eyes, I think, from, you know.
All right, save it for the.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's my fault. But
yeah. I love A-Train's entrance into the car, and that whole stuff, and that weird, uneasy alliance with them is A-Train going to pull an Ashley on me?
I mean, I've never really disliked him that much. Not like the Deep. I mean, he's done some douchey stuff, but he's not the worst.
No,
you know?
No, he's still kind of cool, because I have a thing for the Flash and the Speedsters to begin with, so I've always on board with those guys.
Yeah,
but the at Butcher's meet and greet with Stan, Stan's comment on Butcher's calling him ruthless. That's a priceless moment.
Yeah, it's almost like the pot calling the kettle black, right?
Very much, very much so. And I touched on it a little bit, but Homelander bonding with Ryan was almost touching. If he hadn't been kidnapped from his mom, it would have been actually a genuinely good moment there.
When Homelander showed some vulnerability and kind of identified with what Ryan was going through. Yeah.
Yes. And then offering to show him. I mean, that's actually very thoughtful. I mean, especially if you don't have any training. I mean, say what you will about Donna. Donna has encouraged her daughter to train. So, there's at least that with when Starlight is ready to, she's pretty able. She's very able. And also the Butcher's genuine pleasure and gratitude to Huey and Starlight is nice. He can actually be human.
Yes. Yeah. And I particularly enjoyed when he kissed Becca, and then he looks, and all three of the everybody's, or it's four of them, they're staring at him. I know it was just the three of them, because Huey and Starlight weren't there. Yeah, so but that was hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, and I love that. And let's see,
Frenchie and Kimiko communicating. That was wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, and I love that remark about the dancing at that mound of Bluetooth speakers that they had there.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah.
The girls getting it done scene, that was pretty cool. The nice way to tie up that whole campaign.
Yeah. And and it's really a centerpiece combat scene of all them girls just curb stomping that girl almost. It's
like
just a stomp
fight.
down. It is. They're just stomping the crap out of her, and I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love seeing them girls getting it done. It's pretty sweet. And I just completely forgot that got it done so effectively. And and of course all that end fight. Where you see that fight with any of those fights, but seeing Homelander, seeing the remains of Stormfront, and realizing that was just Ryan's heat vision, and and Homelander has cut loose on her with heat vision. Not like he's cut on her pretty hard, and Ryan just obliterated her.
Is this kind of one of those scenarios? You know how a baby snake will inject.
I was going to say that exact same thing. Yes, I was curious. That could be that same thing, the not knowing the restraint.
Yeah, he doesn't have control, so he just unleashed. It was a highly stressful situation. His mom's getting choked to death in front of him, so he just lets it all out.
Yeah, it's every bit of it, dude.
Because it was it was like a fusion blast. It wasn't focused at all, I don't think.
Yeah.
It has to be.
See, I had to be some kind of focused, or Butcher would have been burned up in that if it was
Okay, good point.
completely unfocused.
So
But it
it's
was
weird
still a
how
little wide. It's like it's imagine if like he's still
Cyclops
learning.
is
Yes,
without
it's like that.
the glasses on to
Yes,
focus it. Okay.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. She got caught in a wide beam when he was trying. He didn't know about wide and fine beams.
Okay. Okay.
It's kind of
Yes.
it's just she just total. Of course, by his reactions, total accident. This poor kid doesn't need to learn how to use his heat vision at his mother's, and cause his mother's death in the same instant. But there it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the couple. I love Hugh and Starlight together. The Frenchie and Kamiko thing. I hope this pays off too. But
Mm.
overall, just a great ending to season 2, and just really uncomfortable Homelander. Anybody, it's such a good show. I'm so looking forward to where we're heading this next week.
This may be kind of hard for you to tell right now, but what was your favorite scene from the whole season?
Boy, that's a really good question. I think everything. I think that my favorite scenes are going to have come a lot from this one episode, but we've had this season was real heavy, not just on exposition, but it delivered a lot more soup violence too.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of doubled down. They even jokingly said that in the ads, it's like going to be twice the amount of exploding heads as last season.
Mm.
So I'm kind of curious how we're going to ratchet things up. But I think a lot of my stuff, for some reason, I always like when the couples end up together. I'm a romantic. I like seeing, I like them walking off happily ever after. But that's not a favorite moment. That's a favorite end product. I think the stuff with Starlight and Noir fighting was really cool. I dug that. Seeing her, that stuff with Maeve helping her with the almond joy.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to choose,
Yeah, because the
but
Black Noir was that this season or was that last
that was
season
this
when they?
season, yeah, with the almond joy.
Okay.
Going back to the projects, when Stormfront is going up
Oh,
each floor and blowing it up, that was an amazing
yeah.
scene.
Starting
Really,
from when
really cool.
she killed, all the way and ending with killing Kamiko's brother. That whole
Yeah,
that
the whole
whole
sequence,
chunk.
but in
Yeah,
particular that shot where it's outside the building and it's going
yeah.
up and you're seeing it. You're not seeing action inside, but you're seeing the damage
Mm,
as the building is imploding or exploding as she goes up.
yeah.
That's one scene that I really enjoyed.
And again, their carnage always that sells their scenes, and I think a little bit because we started watching something else this week, and the term that I dubbed for this, and it's not new. It's you hear people talk about the boys. Something about the boys versus the Avengers is the intimacy level. It's a more intimate.
Because you have
Um,
more time with them.
you have more time with them, but also the way that they show the violence is, I mean, because they notice the fact that, like I pointed out in the like Avengers movies, these people always have a clear line of path to walk through. It's like our heroes in the boys walk around. They're like they have to get through the debris.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just easy. You don't just have it. Oh, there's a beautiful path to go to right where I need. So I just love it
Mm.
though. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Another scene that I really liked was the one where after Kenji was killed by Stormfront, when Kamiko's sitting on the couch
Mm-hmm.
and Stormfront's on the TV and Kamiko's sitting there looking at her, and
Oh
like
yeah.
something about that scene with between the music and the camera shot that really like captured me. I thought it
I
was
get that.
just, it really hit me hard. So I really liked that one because you're like, oh shit, it's going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And then the final one that I want to bring up is in Sage Grove when Lamplighter
Oh
melts Cindy's door and Cindy comes out. They have that little conversation in the hallway.
yeah.
Then that guard comes around that corner
Oh
and,
yes.
and
Oh,
shoots her. And then she turns around and just slowly closes her hand. And then he explodes. MM's reaction right there. He's like,
yeah.
oh,
Oh
shit.
yeah.
For whatever
That's
reason, I just love that reaction, man, because it's just
it's so true. It's so genuine. I mean that would be my reaction. It's
yeah.
like, I mean, that's horrifying.
I think those are my three top scenes. If I had to pick
Yeah.
one of the three, that Kamiko scene, I don't know what it is about it. I really like it.
It's again because it's due to her doing so much acting with just her eyes
Mm-hmm.
and feeling her. emotions without language, because we don't even get the language until until the last episode with
Yeah.
her and Frenchie. So it's nice to see her. We finally have a communicator so we can talk to her.
Yeah.
So nice.
Cool. You have any final thoughts?
I was going to say great finale. I'm super excited to start season 3 this week, and a great ending with pretty much all our bases covered and ready to ratchet it up for season 3. Like last season, I wonder if it's going to be an extra chunky season. And again, thanks for joining us as always. And Dane, you rock, brother. Thanks, man.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Thanks to all of our Patreon subscribers, everyone that has written to us. We got Keon, Dane, Ryan, Scott. All of you have written to us this season. We really appreciate it. Keep writing in your thoughts. We'll read them out.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in season 3. We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.